hours talking all things Big 12 football, and it is the KState contingent today that we will be talking with. Had some great conversations already. We'll hear from Chris Klieman coming up at the bottom of the hour. Will Howard, you forget how big that man is. He'll be joining us in the 1 o'clock hour. We will talk with one of the most fun interviews that Dan and myself maybe have ever done was yesterday. We're about ready to close up shop, but then we're like, okay, let's talk to the BYU AD. To the good use of Google, we found out that Tom Holmoe, the AD of BYU, played at BYU. Oh, well, when did he play at BYU? The same time that Andy Reid was there. And we got into all sorts of Andy Reid Chiefs. And fun fact as well, he's a two-time Super Bowl champ. Backed up Ronnie Lott, covered Jerry Rice in practice. So we got a lot to get to with Tom Holmoe. Fantastic interview. We talked a little bit of BYU joining the league. So we got that coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. Everyone loves the list. We are going to rank the Big 12 football games we are interested in most. We will get to that as well. And in true list fashion, I kind of have a question if one of the games I want to choose actually works. So we will get to that today. We got a lot to get to. As always, let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line. 272-9429, outside of Topeka, 785-272-9429. Lots to get to. You can check us out on our YouTube page. Video not working, but we do have the audio up there on our YouTube page. Very simple, very easy. If you want to check out the YouTube page, go to Sports on 580 at YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search Sports on 580. Very simple, very easy. Let us know how you want to interact with us today. And if you got any questions, hoping to still track down Cooper Beebe, the offensive lineman out of Kansas City Piper. Talked with Daniel Green. We talked with Kobe Savage. Lots of great stuff here today. So it should be a lot of fun on this edition of Mic'd Up, as well as 580 Sports Talk coming up in the afternoon. Who else? I forgot the head Wildcat, maybe the best AD in the land, Gene Taylor. Talking with Gene Taylor for a little bit today. So we got lots to get to on this edition of Mic'd Up. Not as hard hitting because Brett Yormark spoke yesterday, and we got a lot of comments when it comes to the commissioner. Had a chance to talk with Gene Taylor about Brett Yormark and get a little bit more in depth on what do you like about Brett Yormark, and it's a lot to like. He goes, he thinks differently. He thinks as a promoter, he doesn't really know a lot about college athletes, and he knows that, and that's okay because he asked for help. Says not a lot of people at that status would do that. So far it's been good. We'll get to all of that coming up today here on Mic'd Up. So let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on YouTube, as well as we are here at Big 12 Football Media Days today, the final day. But Dan, this is what we're going to get to today. All right. The preseason poll won't come out for a couple of weeks. What's the Big 12's perception nationally in your mind?
I think it's really interesting to comprehend, to not comprehend. It's interesting to ponder, right? Because I think at this time last year, there was some legitimate concern about the future of the Big 12. What was it going to look like? How was it going to, and maybe this isn't so dramatic to say, how was it going to survive when it looked like the SEC and the Big Ten were going to maybe cannibalize college football? Maybe that's, again, exaggerating it. But, I mean, in the wake of the announcement about USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten, anything felt possible. And we wondered, what direction is the Big 12 going to go? What direction is Brett Yormark going to take it in? And I think in a year's time, the perception of the Big 12 has changed from a conference that was maybe going to fall behind, a conference that was maybe going to struggle to maintain a place in the college football landscape, or as prominent a place in the college football landscape, I think we've seen in this last year that the conference has steadied itself, has started to develop its own brand and tell its own story, and done so, I think, helpfully without the soon-to-depart Texas and Oklahoma programs. Now, look, those are great historic programs, national championships, all those things. But last year's conference championship game was TCU and Kansas State. And it was TCU playing in the the college football playoff, in the national championship game. So I think that the perception of the Big 12 has gone in a year's time from where does this conference fit? Does this conference have a place at the table? To, yes, the Big 12 is viable. The Big 12 is on firm ground. And the Big 12 is going to play high-level and entertaining college football. And I think that's a credit to, obviously, the members, the 12 that are here that are going to remain with the league following this year. But it's also a testament to the way Brett Yormark talked about it here last year. We have to tell our story. And I think the Big 12 has gotten really good at telling its story, and it has told a compelling story, I think, in the world of college football over the last year.
I think right now the Big 12 does not get any recognition or credit. And even the national media is calling it the Big Two. And I think the Big 12 knows it's not going to be on the same level monetarily as the SEC and the Big Ten. I think the SEC doesn't care about anything other than the SEC. So they do not give a you-know-what about the Big 12. I think they don't even care about the Big Ten. Like the SEC, has a lot of the SEC and there's just justifiably because it's been the best conference, when it comes to the top tier. I mean, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, they've Auburn have won all national championships here recently. And so I get that, where they think nothing of the other schools. And I think, outside of, I think the Big Ten, outside of about 3 schools, I don't think anybody else has a chance to even get into that area. Like, that's the one thing, and I wonder if this is what Brett Yormark has done with the Big 12 and explaining it to the TV people, is that, and this is why I like the college football playoff the way it is, expanding, because you got more people that have a chance to be interested. The Big 12, even this year, with Texas and Oklahoma, and then take, Oklahoma and Texas out of the picture, I really don't know who's going to – is there going to be a run of a team is going to be in the Big 12 title game 3 out of 4 years, that's the same school? I have no idea. And to me, that's what makes the Big 12 compelling. You never know what's going to end up happening. And that's what I think Brett Yormark tells the story to the TV people. Hey, you're not going to get the numbers that a Bama or a Georgia get. The number's the 4 million viewer number. Big 12 has a hard time getting to that number. But what I can tell you is that when a Big 12 fan base like Iowa State or KState or TCU or Baylor or Tech, if they're in the hunt for it, people are going to watch. Their fan base are going to watch. You're
dedicated fan base.
You're going to get 3 million viewers for, this upcoming year, TCU, Kansas State, not big name brands, nationally, but I promise you that's going to be a watched game. It really will be. And so that's what I think of the Big 12 is I think it's going to be a much more competitive league. The Big 10 is not a competitive league. It is Ohio State, it is Michigan, and then
Penn State, Michigan State here and there, Wisconsin here and there. But you kind of know who's going to be, and in the SEC, this is the case too with Alabama, with Georgia, with LSU. There's a defined hierarchy in those leagues that if you crack it, maybe for a season.
So that's why I don't.
There is no defined hierarchy as it stands in what's going to be left of the Big 12 starting next year. And even right this second, there's no defined hierarchy.
And that's why I think it's compelling, and that's the Big 12 story, is nationally, no, they don't get a whole lot of respect. And TCU getting blasted by Georgia last year in the title game does not help. But you know who did beat the best team in the Big Ten last year? TCU did. But that's just the way it looks. Like
they lost to Georgia. So did everybody else.
Like KU basketball. KU basketball has been so dominant and so good forever that KU basketball is a lot like SEC football. KU basketball doesn't really care about a whole lot of anybody else, right? Oh, we don't got to worry about this. Don't got to worry about that. We're KU basketball. We know how good we are. We KU basketball is Alabama football. KU basketball doesn't worry about anything else. That's what the SEC is. But the Big 12 is, I think it's going to be so much. I think the national perspective is too, when they talk about the Big 2, when it comes to the Big 12, I don't think they realize, the national people, that the Big 12 knows they're not the Big 2. We know that. We just want to, be close enough money-wise that we can still compete. Can you compete with $50 million a year? Yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Can you compete with $25 or $30 million a year, which might end up happening in the Pac-12?
Not really.
I don't know. That's $20 million a year. That's a big difference. And I look at the Big 12, and I firmly believe this. I think the Big 12 is the third best conference when it comes to football right now. And the reason why is there's one other team in the whole entire college football world right now that won't be in the Big 12 or Big 10 or the SEC that is, to me, right now, no questions asked, a part of that's Clemson. Okay, that is what Clemson's got going. Clemson, right? The ACC is Clemson, and then a little step down, Florida State, and then everybody else. Like everybody else, I do. I think the Big 12 is the. That's why I think the Big 12, the ACC should be having the same question.
Well, over time, I think a hierarchy or something like it will develop in the Big 12. But that's what's exciting about it right now, is that there isn't one, and that every school thinks they've got a chance. I think every school here, from the newcomers, BYU and UCF and Houston and Cincinnati, to teams that are maybe typically also Rans, but are starting to make some moves in the right direction, like Kansas. Or you could even include, I think, Iowa State, even though they won 4 games last year. They're a program that played in the Fiesta Bowl 2 years ago. 3 seasons ago, I guess it is now. Every school that is here, I think, is here with the firm belief that we can be a year-in, year-out contender in the Big 12. That's good for business. There are schools in the Big Ten that know what time it is. Like, they know, like, a good year for us is, hey, maybe, well, it used to be we maybe win our division and get into the conference championship game. Now that they're going divisionless in that league, like, if you're Rutgers, you're not going to win the Big Ten. You're not. No. If you're Northwestern, you're not going to win the Big Ten. You got bigger problems to worry about than that, but you're not going to win the Big Ten. Illinois is not going to win the Big Ten.
Indiana, Purdue,
not going to win the Big Ten in football.
Maryland's
not going to win the Big Ten.
You forget Maryland's in the Big Ten.
They should not be. That's the one that makes me the maddest, because Maryland is ACC. Like,
Maryland's in the Big Ten.
Another talk for another day. The SEC is the same deal. Vanderbilt's not going to win that league. Kentucky has gotten better, but they're not going to win that league. Everybody knows what time it is. Everyone here in the Big 12, it is wide open, and that makes for a compelling week-by-week viewing experience, fan experience. It fills stadiums, it gets good TV ratings, it gets people excited, it keeps people talking about Big 12 football instead of, well, there's like 4 games on the schedule that matter, and we'll check in on those. If you're a casual college football fan, you want games that matter, you want games that ring bells, the Big 12 is going to have those. So there's an exciting vibe, there's a freshness to this league, and I think people have caught up on it, because I think the Big 12 has, like Brett Yormark talked about a year ago today, in fact. The Big 12 has done an outstanding job of telling its story.
I think, the Pac-12 in 2 years, the Pac-12 is going to say the same thing about, we know who the Pac-12 is going to be. Let's say the Pac-12 stays together, okay? Stays together. It's going to be Oregon and Washington and everybody else.
And the Pips.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not the Big 12. Like, that is not the Big 12.
Utah, that's not fair. Utah will be really good too. It's Oregon, Washington, Utah, and then you got 7 other programs that probably aren't going to compete at a national level. Probably aren't going to be teams that ever even think about like a New Year's Six or a playoff bid. It's not happening. It's not happening at Cal, right?
No.
Current iteration of Stanford's not happening there. It's not. Sorry, it's not happening at Colorado. I know everybody fired about Coach Prime. It's not happening at Colorado. So yeah, I think you're right, and that's frankly, if that league is still around in any kind of form in 3 to 5 years.
You remember when they said that they were going to release their schedule or their TV deal like April?
2 weeks.
No, May 1st, and then it was at the end of June, and now we're at the middle of July and still nothing. Their media days are coming up. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but out on the West Coast, out on the left coast, they don't care about sports like they do elsewhere. That's just the way it is. Oregon and Washington are it, and that's why they've been wanting to leave the conference from the absolute get-go. So that, to me, is the biggest deal there for the Big 12. So I do think nationally, no one, the SEC and the Big 10, they just laugh. It's so funny that I have a buddy of mine who's a Nebraska fan, and he calls the Big 12 the Little 12, because Nebraska's in the Big 10 now. And I don't know if Nebraska will ever win the Big 10.
Yeah, life's been really great for Nebraska as a program since they've been in the Big 10. How many conference championships do they have in that league? Oh, none? 0?
Hey, let me ask you this. When was the last time Nebraska made a bowl game? A bowl game. They went 6-6, Dan. When was the last time?
Yeah, didn't happen under Scott Frost. So it would have been Mike Riley's second year because he only made it 3 years, right? They fired him after 3.
Yep.
It was Riley's second year. So that would have been 15 or 16?
2016.
16.
Here is what they've done since: 4-8, 4-8, 5-7, 3-5 COVID year, 3-9, 4-8. And you're going to clap back at the Little 12? Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, you got a bigger check, and you're irrelevant. Like, you don't matter because you're not Ohio State and you're not Michigan, and you're not going to recruit on the level of Ohio State and Michigan, so you're not relevant. If Nebraska were in this league, I'd be thrilled if Nebraska were still in the Big 12. It'd be great.
I would too.
You have the history, you've got the rivalries, and they would be much happier too because they'd be a lot more competitive on the gridiron.
Yeah, they'd actually, get to go to like the independent.
Maybe you could play for a conference championship here, which hasn't been done in a decade at Nebraska.
Well, they did compete. Didn't they play in the conference championship game and lost to didn't they play in?
I think they played in at least once under Pelini, but they haven't played in it since Pelini. They got sandblasted. They gave 70 to Wisconsin.
Yeah, like 66-0.
No, it was 70. It was 70 to 21, I think. Yeah, it was bad.
Well, we got plenty to get to here from Big 12 football media days here in Dallas. We're going to hear from Chris Klieman here in about 10 minutes. We're going to hear from Will Howard. We'll hear from Tom Holmoe. We'll hear from Gene Taylor. We'll hear from Daniel Green. We're going to hear from Kobe Savage. We'll try to get in touch with Cooper Beebe. He's the one K-Stater we haven't talked to, so hopefully we'll get him on here live at some time coming up today here on Mic'd Up. We'll get a quick timeout. We'll get a little bit more here, kind of some other national news going on, and then we'll hear from the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, Chris Klieman, here on Mic'd Up.
580 WIBW, Topeka, and FM 104.9.
Jacob Lon, Dan Lucero here, mic'd up here at the Big 12 Media Days here at Jerry World. Just a few minutes for the bottom of the hour, then we'll get to Chris Klieman. I will say this. Yesterday, Patrick Mahomes took home a whole bunch of hardware. He's probably going to prominently display the SBs on his house. Took home best NFL player, best male athlete. Now, I do think that is something.
Yes,
that
cool.
He got best NFL player. Yeah, he got the MVP, obviously. But like best male athlete, when he's going up against, the best of the best in other sports, that's kind of cool. Chiefs got best team.
Yeah,
that's
I think that
cool.
was a fan vote. So Chiefs Kingdom got out and voted for their guys. And who gets to keep that one? Or do you think that just stays at one Arrowhead?
I don't know. They probably don't even care about that one either.
Right next to the Lombardi, I'm sure,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. But what also came out yesterday, I watched the very first episode of Quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just make it the Patrick Mahomes documentary? Because I am so much more invested in that. Kirk Cousins is an interesting cat. He really lets you in behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. Mahomes does as well. I will say this. Patrick Mahomes and myself, we have more similarities now. One, he's got 2 kids. I've got 2 kids. He's around 6'3", 6'4". I'm around 6'3", 6'4". Patrick Mahomes hates taking photos. Guess what? Your boy hates taking photos. It's really cool to see kind of behind the scenes, and I think the nation is gonna like Patrick Mahomes even more because of this, and I think people will appreciate Kirk Cousins and what he kind of goes through. He's got a lot of stuff going up in the old cabeza. I'm telling you, man.
Sure.
And you kind of get a peek in that. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It really is. I'm only one episode in. I wanted to just get a little flavor of it because, my wife wants to watch it with me, but I watched the first episode without her, and I'll rewatch it. But it's cool. There is a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, good stuff with Max Crosby in that first episode. Don't want to be, super spoiler and everything right now, but I think this is going to be pretty cool. We got a lot more to get to here on this edition of Mic'd Up. Coming up next, we're going to hear from head coach Chris Klieman. We'll also hear from Will Howard in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll talk a little college football games in the Big 12. All of that coming up here on our final day here in Arlington for Big 12 Football Media Days here on 580 WIBW.
WIBW, Topeka, and FM 104.9.
Welcome back to Big 12 Football Media Days here in Dallas, Texas, as we are talking all things Big 12 football, the unofficial kickoff for Big 12 football. And we are talking now with the head Wildcat as he is sitting right on the goal line, right in the end zone, in which Eli Huggins, Daniel Green, and the rest of the D-line absolutely stymied Kendre Miller.
Don't forget Damon Alalio now.
Yeah, the Manhattan product. That's right. We saw him destroy a whole bunch of Topeka teams. But there's the uprights. So take me through. Does this bring back some fun memories? And I see you not even looking at the Zentner kick. The highlights are great on that. So give me some flashbacks here.
How could you not have great feelings coming back here? And what a great end to that Big 12 season. And you're right, to get the big stop. And I'm not quite in the end zone right here, so that's good.
You and Kendre Miller both.
Yeah. But no, what a great stop. You're right. Damian Alalio came in and played his one or two snaps of the Big 12 championship, but that he knew his role, and Eli and Daniel stuffed him. And then did anybody think Ty was not going to make that kick? I mean, when he was smiling on the sidelines, I knew he was excited. Colin and I were talking, okay, we got to get one first down, and ran a jet sweep to Deuce for about 9 and got a first down, put it in the middle. And that was a special moment. And people, when we came into that week, we had gotten beat by TCU, but our guys felt like we should have won that game down in Fort Worth, even though that they did a good job in the second half. But the other thing that was a huge thing for us is we started the season here in 2021 against Stanford. And so many of our guys had played in this stadium that for an 11 o'clock kick on Saturday, where you don't get to come in on Friday before and you get here and the game's rolling, that we don't have that awe factor. Our guys were like, okay, it's a stadium. We've been here before. Let's go to work.
That was calculated there by head coach Chris Klieman, I would imagine that.
Absolutely. Our guys, we talked about it. We didn't need to go through where the locker room was and how we're getting there. Our kids had done all that. And we talked about the advantages that we were going to have because we had been there before. Where are the play clocks? Oh, right. We know where they're right at. And we know how we're getting the field. And we knew the environment. We knew it was loud when we played Stanford here, even though there wasn't near as many people, but it was still loud. And I thought our guys took full advantage of it.
All righty. You have always said from the very beginning, this goes back to your North Dakota State days, you want a player-led program. You don't want to be leading this program. That's not your job. That's the players, and you kind of know that. And my whole family's NDSU people, so I've followed that a lot. And the players coming back and doing all of that. Now, you've been here. I can't believe it's been that long, since 2019. So when it comes to how do you feel where you're at as a player-led program? You got Will Howard and Kobe Savage and hearing Will talk about being the leader and all of that kind of stuff. Are you pleased with where this culture is at?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with what our players have driven in that culture. We give them a lot of the tools, but then they have to lead and they have to be in that locker room when times are tough. And you're going to be successful in anything you do when you have people that have been in your program, your organization, your corporation for a number of years. And we have this year 9 6-year guys. And then we have Will's like a young 4th-year guy. Beebs is a 5th-year guy. We have so many kids that have been in our program 3, 4, and 5 years that they know the expectations. They know the standard that we're supposed to live up to. And that it's a lot easier as a coach when you know that the guys can drive that culture. And the strength coaches do a phenomenal job of that as well. But you're only going to be successful the more people are in your – I knew this was going to be tough when we got here, not because I followed Coach Snyder. I knew that was going to be a thing that I was going to always get talked about. But people – it takes a while to get to know people, know how we act, know how we as coaches are going to go through a win, a loss, as well as the players. And, the longer that guys are in the program, who did Will Howard learn from? Skylar Thompson. Who did Daniel Green learn from? Eli Sullivan. I mean, it just Trey Deshawn taught Eli Huggins. I mean, it just goes down the line, and that's what you got to have to be successful.
When it comes to this football team this year, you lost a lot of high-profile guys. I mean, hey, it's always good when you're losing first-round and second-round draft picks.
Yep.
I mean, when you're losing Felix Anudike-Uzama, Julius Brents, and then you throw in Deuce Vaughn, who will go – I mean, you can put him in the Ring of Honor game 1 if you want. But you got a lot of the meat and potato guys back. Your O-line, linebackers, some secondary guys, couple Ben Sinnott, Will Howard's raving about his athleticism and all that kind of stuff. So when it comes to how do you fill in the elite guys who are special, but man, we got a lot of guys back that maybe people don't realize.
Well, you're not going to replace Deuce Vaughn. You're not going to replace Felix. It's just really hard. You're not going to replace some of the things that Malik and Cade gave us, and Josh Hayes, and our bookend corners of Julius and Echo played so much football for us. But we had a lot of guys that learned from those guys, as well as like offensively. I think Colin Klein, I'm excited for him because last year is how are we going to get the ball to Deuce Vaughn? That's what we're going to do. Everybody knew 22 was getting the football. How are we getting it to him? Is he out of the backfield? Is he flexed out? Whatever it may be. Well, now we have a lot of guys that we need to be able to spread the football around, and people can't come in and say, well, we just got to stop Deuce and we have a chance. Well, is it going to be Trayshawn Ward? Is it going to be DJ Giddens? Is it going to be Ben Sinnott? Is it going to be Keegan Johnson? Is it going to be Phillip Brooks? Is it going to be RJ Garcia? And so on and so forth. We have a lot more people that I think we don't have to throw it all on one person.
Our guest is Chris Klieman, the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, joining us from Big 12 Football Media Days at AT&T Stadium in Arlington here on 580 WIBW. You mentioned Deuce Vaughn. There's no replacing him. He's one of the smallest players in program history, but some of the biggest shoes to fill. And I think of that line in Moneyball. You don't replace, but you can maybe recreate in the aggregate. You've got Trayshawn Ward coming in from Florida State, preseason newcomer of the year in the conference. DJ Giddens is back. What are we going to see from your running back group? You have a little bit more faces now, different faces. What are we going to see from those guys as they try and recreate that production and fit in this offense?
Well, and that's the million-dollar question that I don't have the answer for, other than we have a lot of guys with a lot of skill sets. Trayshawn joined us in January, but didn't go through spring ball because he was nursing an injury. DJ Giddens had an injury at the end of the season, didn't go through spring ball. And so Brian Anderson has done a great job with the young players in that room, the Jordan Shippers, the James Whites, and Anthony Faria, some of the younger players. But I'm excited to see once we get to fall camp and he's got the full complement of everybody healthy, of whatever are going to go through a win, a loss, as well as the players. And, the longer that guys are in the program, who did Will Howard learn from? Skylar Thompson. Who did Daniel Green learn from? Eli Sullivan. I mean, it just Trey Deshawn taught Eli Huggins. I mean, it just goes down the line, and that's what you got to have to be successful.
When it comes to this football team this year, you lost a lot of high-profile guys. I mean, hey, it's always good when you're losing first-round and second-round draft picks.
Yep.
I mean, when you're losing Felix Anudike-Uzama, Julius Brents, and then you throw in Deuce Vaughn, who will go – I mean, you can put him in the Ring of Honor game 1 if you want. But you got a lot of the meat and potato guys back. Your O-line, linebackers, some secondary guys, couple Ben Sinnott, Will Howard's raving about his athleticism and all that kind of stuff. So when it comes to how do you fill in the elite guys who are special? But man, we got a lot of guys back that maybe people don't realize.
Well, you're not going to replace Deuce Vaughn. You're not going to replace Felix. It's just really hard. You're not going to replace some of the things that Malik and Cade gave us, and Josh Hayes, and our bookend corners of Julius and Echo played so much football for us. But we had a lot of guys that learned from those guys, as well as like offensively. I think Colin Klein, I'm excited for him because last year is how are we going to get the ball to Deuce Vaughn? That's what we're going to do. Everybody knew 22 was getting the football. How are we getting it to him? Is he out of the backfield? Is he flexed out? Whatever it may be. Well, now we have a lot of guys that we need to be able to spread the football around, and people can't come in and say, well, we just got to stop Deuce and we have a chance. Well, is it going to be Trayshawn Ward? Is it going to be DJ Giddens? Is it going to be Ben Sennett? Is it going to be Keegan Johnson? Is it going to be Phillip Brooks? Is it going to be RJ Garcia? And so on and so forth. We have a lot more people that I think we don't have to throw it all on one person.
Our guest is Chris Klieman, the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, joining us from Big 12 Football Media Days at AT&T Stadium in Arlington here on 580 WIBW. You mentioned Deuce Vaughn. There's no replacing him. It's one of the smallest players in program history, but some of the biggest shoes to fill. And I think of that line in Moneyball. You don't replace, but you can maybe recreate in the aggregate. You've got Trayshawn Ward coming in from Florida State, preseason newcomer of the year in the conference. DJ Giddens is back. What are we going to see from your running back group? You have a little bit more faces now, different faces. What are we going to see from those guys as they try and recreate that production and fit in this offense?
Well, and that's the million-dollar question that I don't have the answer for, other than we have a lot of guys with a lot of skill sets. Trayshawn joined us in January, but didn't go through spring ball because he was nursing an injury. DJ Giddens had an injury at the end of the season, didn't go through spring ball. And so Brian Anderson's done a great job with the young players in that room, the Jordan Shippers, the James Whites, and Anthony Faria, some of the younger players. But I'm excited to see once we get to fall camp and he's got the full complement of everybody healthy, of whatever.
Having some technical difficulties replaying the interview with head coach Chris Klieman from here. We talked with him earlier this morning. We'll get a quick timeout. We will see if we can't figure out to get that interview back up and running before we get to the top of the hour. So we will take a quick timeout here from Dallas here as you're listening to Mic'd Up.
Oh, no!
What? Who are you?
Backseat driver here. What were you thinking trying to pass that truck on the right?
He was in my way.
Bad move, bucko. When you drive too close to his back bumper or drive next to him on the right, he can't see you. We call it the no zone.
No zone?
Those are the blind spots close behind, in front, or beside trucks to both the right and the left.
So what if trucks can't see me? I can see them and get by fast.
Well, Slick, that's 80,000 pounds of metal at 70 miles per hour.
80,000 pounds?
They take twice as long to stop and are 3 times more deadly in a collision.
Yikes!
Yikes is right, Junior. So if you want to live another day, smart guy, give trucks some room. Pass only on the left and don't cut them off too close. And for the love of Pete, don't text and drive. Know the no zones. Get the facts at kansashighwaypatrol.org/no zone.
580 WIBW invites you to relax for free at the Crossroads Fountain Display in downtown Topeka's Evergy Plaza every Tuesday night at 9. Enjoy spectacular water shows that are synchronized to music and multicolor lights. Pack up the family or friends for a real treat as water sprays reach heights from 12 to 20 feet. Summer nights are meant to be shared. So come join 580 WIBW at the free downtown Topeka's Evergy Plaza Crossroads Fountain every Tuesday night at 9.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
I drive my bus in a busy city. That's why road safety is so important to me. I know that I must slow down and be extra careful when I make a wide turn. Buses need more room than cars. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're driving, remember to give buses plenty of time and space to finish turning before driving ahead. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
WIBW, Topeka, FM 104.9.
Welcome back to Dallas here for Big 12 Media Days. We got the situation fixed, so we will get to head coach Chris Klieman and the interview we had with him earlier today.
Defensive Player of the Year. And even as he departs, I feel like that group of pass rushers still a little bit underrated with Khalid Duke, with Brendan Mott, I thought was super last year. Nate Matlack. You've got some other guys maybe ready to step in as well. Tell us a little bit about that edge group, that pass rusher group, because it's so important to be able to get after the quarterback, get off the field on third downs. And I think, again, you come into this year with a pretty good stable of guys who can do that.
Absolutely. And Felix was a first-round pick, phenomenal talent that everybody game planned for Felix, and he had a tremendous year and a tremendous career. But you're right. I think the depth that we have and some of the names that you mentioned are a year older, a year stronger, a year more experienced. And I look at Khalid Duke, who played linebacker for us, is going to go back to his normal position at defensive end. And arguably 2 years ago was our best pass rusher. And, he was the next coming of Wyatt Hubert. And Duke's going to be back to his normal spot. Nate Matlock was not healthy all last year. He got injured in the second game of the season, and it had a nagging injury all year long. So I'm excited to see what Nate's going to do. Nate's put on another 10 pounds. Brendan Mott's a kid that's very underrated. Cody Stufflebean's underrated. We have a lot of depth and a lot of people there that we're going to be able to rotate probably a little bit more through. And then our defensive tackles, we lose Eli, but Damian Alalio, we talked about. Uso is going to be a beast inside there. He's going to be an exceptional player. And so we're excited about the depth we have, not only up front, but in the linebackers as well.
You've got a tremendous quarterback room for the second straight year. Last year, Adrian Martinez came into the season, a transfer, but he was the guy and was such a leader for that group. And when Will Howard stepped in, when his number was called, he was unquestionably ready for that moment. Now this year, it's Will Howard's time, but behind him, a lot of really talented guys. Jake Rubley's been with the program. Avery Johnson, obviously the high-profile recruit from Mays High, is new to the program. With that group, how have you seen, number one, Will take ownership of that quarterback room, but number two, the talent in that room kind of elevate each other?
Yeah. Will had great leadership in it last year, even when Adrian was in there, because Will had been in the seat 1A when Skyler was playing, and then Skyler got hurt and he came into seat 1. So Will has always been a leader in that quarterback room. But now that he's the unquestioned quarterback, unquestioned leader, I see Jake Rubley feeling more and more comfortable being in the system for another year. Avery's an unbelievable talent. That's a young player. I'm glad he came in spring ball, put on 20 pounds. Going to be a terrific football player, but he just needs to learn under Will. Adrian Lara is a kid that's in our program. That's a really good quarterback as well. We brought another guy in, Jacob Knuth, that walked onto us from Minnesota. That's a good player. I mean, we have great depth and great health in that room and great leadership in that room, but it starts and ends with Colin Klein. Colin is the catalyst in that room, and the way that he manages that room, that there's no egos, the way that he conducts the room and has everybody have ownership in the room. And that's, I sit in there an awful lot, and it's fun to watch. And there's no doubt that Will Howard's a leader in that room, but it starts at the top with Colin.
We're talking with the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, Chris Klieman. You mentioned Colin Klein. He's that good. He's getting suited other places. How did that kind of go down with him, going to, Notre Dame ain't a little fish in the pond here.
Yeah.
How do you kind of handle that?
Well, Kansas State's not a little fish in the pond, and he and I talked about that too.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State is a name to be reckoned with. There was unfinished business with Colin. Colin just finished year one as the offensive coordinator, and I thought had a fabulous year in his first year of calling plays in a whole year. But I think Colin would even tell you, boy, he wishes he did something differently and learn from mistakes that maybe he felt he made. And I saw a guy with so much more confidence and so much more belief and swagger in the spring of he's got that staff back. Connor Riley does a tremendous job for us in the run game. Brian LePack and Brian Anderson's been a staple there. We have brought in Matthew Middleton as a wide receiver coach, and Matthew's really going to elevate our passing game, that he takes all that input as well. But I'm excited because we have all of our offensive linemen back and your quarterback back. It allows you to, facilitate everything a little bit quicker, from game plans to adding more things in the install stuff. And Colin's going to have a special year, and he's going to give Will the keys and let him roll too.
Alrighty. Philosophically, you mentioned Felix Anudike, who's on a great career. The photo that Connor Riley tweeted out, he looked like, a wide receiver, and now he looks at that. So I'm going to ask you this. As the coach of Kansas State, what's more important, evaluation of talent to get them there and to know if they can sign there? Because sometimes you go after, some guys are not going to come to Kansas State. Or is it development? You got to develop guys. What is more important?
It's both. I mean, it's an evaluation to see if a young man has maybe the growth potential as well as the work ethic. And then the one common denominator with a lot, you look at Cooper Beebe, you look at Will Howard, you look at anybody else, Tremaine Carroll, our strength coach, he's the best in the business. He and his staff do a phenomenal job of giving the guys the tools. The guys still got to do it, but our strength and conditioning program and sports science that we're doing with our guys, I believe, is off the charts. I believe we're on the cutting edge of doing things that I don't know if a lot of other programs are doing. And if they are, I don't know if they're doing it with the caliber. All you got to do is look at Felix Anudike.
Yeah, that was an incredible photo.
That picture at 209 pounds, to Felix leaving at 255 pounds, and to see there's so many stories like that. And it's a credit to the young man to committing himself, and it's a credit to Tremaine Carroll and his staff.
All righty. I have to know this. Do you allow music at practice?
Yeah, we do at times. Yep. I mean, it's not a full-blown concert all the time because you still got to coach.
Yep.
But you want that music somewhere with the distractions.
Who's in charge of the playlist?
Probably Al Serby, our equipment manager.
So
I'm not letting the players do it. I'm letting Al do it. They can give Al suggestions, and then Al will decide what we're going to play that day. But Al's been there a long time. Al needs a little bit of street cred. Let him have some fun, too.
So do you have any say? Do you know, hey, I need some.
I don't have any say. It's not a coach-led team. It's a player-led team. And so Al will say what's the suggestions, and Monday's different than Tuesday. Tuesday's different from Wednesday. Wednesday's different from Thursday. So we're going to hit all genres and let everybody enjoy it.
All righty. The schedule. It's an unbalanced schedule now. How do you as a coach look at that? I told this to Gene Taylor. I'm a Big 8 guy. I grew up with the Big 8. I love the Big 8. I am so mad that K-State's not playing Oklahoma. Yeah. One, because, well, you guys own Oklahoma, and that's a win. But two, I hate conference realignment. Yeah. It stinks. So you don't get to play Oklahoma. I don't like that. Unbalanced schedule. How do you look at that just as a coach?
Yeah. Conference realignment's going to continue to evolve. We just got to accept the fact that everybody's going to continue to evolve, and there's going to be more changes over the next several years. It's much harder for us in the fact of we've had a library on all these Big 12 teams for my 4 years. They've had a library on us. We had to do a lot more legwork on UCF and Houston because we actually play them this year. But then we took that library of what we had against Oklahoma and put it away. Now, do you put it away forever? Because we probably will never play them again unless it's in a Big 12 championship or a bowl game or something. Who knows? West Virginia, we don't know. We've had a library on West Virginia, and Neil's had one on us. We put that away for a year. But it's strange. You knew everybody had to play everybody. So this year is going to be interesting. It's going to be different for all of us, for sure.
Yeah. All righty, last thing I got for you. How many strokes did my good buddy Scott Wimpy give you up there at Firekeeper when you went and played?
Gosh, Wimpy's just giving me lessons when I go up there. He that's what he does for a living. He's going to hit the wedge or 8-iron in better than I am, but I don't want Wimpy calling our plays on 3rd and 8 either. So
does he give you some advice?
No, he gives me advice on my golf swing, which I hope he does. And if he gave me any advice on coaching, I wouldn't listen to it. And Scott knows that. But no, he's been a great friend, a great partner for me to run up there to Firekeeper and go play, and jumps in with us, and we have a lot of fun. So Scott's been a great friend to me.
Well, we appreciate the time. Hopefully you're back here again on December 2nd. Maybe not as exciting of a finish, and K-State gets back-to-back. Should be a lot of fun. Best of luck this upcoming year.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
That is the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, Chris Klieman. Good stuff from head coach Chris Klieman. I think you can tell he's super pumped about quarterback and every O-lineman back.
Who wouldn't be?
I think he's low-key very excited about that.
I think if you asked every coach in America, if you can have returning starters back at any position, what would they be? I think the first two answers would be, I'd love to have my quarterback back, and I'd love to have all five up front back.
I think he's sneaky, really pumped. They lost some studs, but I think he's pretty excited about that. We got a lot to get to. We're going to talk with Cooper Beebe, the Piper Pirate product, coming up to start the 1 o'clock hour. We got Everyone Loves the List. We'll hear from Will Howard, Tom Holmoe. A lot to get to coming up on this edition of Mic'd Up.
There's still time to landscape with 11% off lawn and garden supplies at Menards. Get huge last call savings on Bonnie plants, all on sale. Hurry, Goodwill supplies last. Landscape around trees and flowers with interlock edgers. Only 99 cents each after 11% off. Then brighten your landscape with LED Anoka solar lights. Just $3.99 each after rebate. Good through July 16th. Savings are mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
If there was ever a time to live united, it is now. Now is the time to speak with one voice, to build up, not tear down. It's time to join hands and live united against the problems that keep our communities from thriving. United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community. Will you? Volunteer or donate now at unitedway.org.
WIBW Topeka FM 104.9.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Indeed.com.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. Folks are recovering now in Chicago, where several homes were damaged by a suspected tornado. WBBM TV's Charlie DeMar is there.
Terrifying cell phone video shows debris swirling around a home in Elgin. You can see shingles and parts of homes caught in the powerful storm. Once that rain cleared, though, the cleanup began, and neighbors began to assess the extent of the damage. Trees were uprooted throughout this neighborhood in Elgin and tossed with ease on top of homes and cars.
Extreme heat is also spreading today. CBS's Jared Hill.
Cooling centers are being set up around Phoenix, Arizona. The city gearing up for its 14th straight day of temperatures at or above 110 degrees.
Even just a half hour in this heat can really change how our body's feeling, how we're performing.
The dangerously high temperatures are expected to spread to California next. Forecasters say LA County could hit up to 113 on Friday.
The Secret Service is done investigating how cocaine got into the White House, but we still don't know who did it. CBS's Nicole Skangas in Washington.
No fingerprints could be found on the cocaine's packaging, and there was insufficient DNA for investigative comparisons, according to the agency.
A jury in Pittsburgh has ruled the man who shot up a synagogue, killing 11 people in 2018, is eligible for the death penalty. Jeff Finkelstein is with the Jewish Federation.
We are grateful for the jury's efforts to reach a just decision today. The Federation does not have a position on the death penalty, but this was an act of anti-Semitism, and the defendant deserves to answer for his crime.
President Biden was in Finland today talking Ukraine and Russia, and he gave reporters an update on getting American prisoners home.
I'm serious about prisoner exchange. I'm serious about doing all we can to free Americans from being illegally held in Russia or anywhere else for that matter. And that process is underway.
Women can get birth control without a prescription soon. Here's CBS's Kimmy McCormick.
This will be the first daily non-prescription tablet for contraceptive use, the FDA says in a statement. It will be an available option for millions of people, and it noted half of the 6 million pregnancies in the U.S. each year are unintended. This drug will be available at grocery stores and pharmacies, as well as online.
But at the 5 a.m. time,
That's not Bryan Adams, but the singer did not skip a beat when a fan rushed the stage at his show in Salt Lake City and grabbed the mic over the weekend. He stepped back and just let security swoop in. This is CBS News.
Need to hire quality candidates fast? You need Indeed, the end-to-end hiring solution. Attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Visit Indeed.com/credits.
Kansas Information Network News. I'm Lisa Ruffman. A Shawnee County District Court judge rejected on Wednesday a request by a Kansas Department of Revenue lawyer to lift a temporary restraining order on Senate Bill 180, thereby prohibiting the administration from issuing driver's licenses amended to reflect gender preferences of transgender individuals. Country Stampede kicks off today.
3 days of musical fun is in store for those attending, ready to enjoy their favorite country artists. The weekend also promises to be somewhat challenging for those throwing the party. In speaking with 13 News, Emergency Management's Jake Henry says both heat and the possibility of severe weather are a concern this weekend. Festival goers will find food and drink, misters, and emergency services if necessary. Folks are reminded to bring what they need for the heat and make sure they can receive weather alerts on their smartphones just in case.
This is Kansas Information Network News.
The Breadbasket Farmers Market partners with local vendors of fresh produce, homemade and handmade goods to give back to the community. Our foundation makes sure the local community has local goods and produce sourced from our community. Check us out at foundation.breadbasketfarmersmarket.com.
I'm Julie Bowen, and I'm here to tell you it's impossible to beat cancer alone. That's why Stand Up to Cancer is asking for your help. It takes all of us to beat cancer. Join the movement now at standuptocancer.org.
We expect our information in real time. US Med carries continuous glucose monitors, which provide real-time readings of blood glucose levels. US Med is an approved provider for Medicare and over 500 private insurers. So call 800-730-8405 today for a free insurance and Medicare benefits check. As easy as, that's 800-730-8405.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early, so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Scattered cloudiness of the forecast for the weekend, all of northeastern Kansas for the rest of today and tonight. Maybe a hit or miss shower or storm, but not the greatest coverage area of thunderstorms, or high up to 95, and the overnight low at 70. More rounds of showers and thunderstorms becoming likely Friday into Friday night, and a handful of strong to severe storms possible. So we're monitoring those chances. Our Friday high 90.
580 WIBW, Topeka, and FM 104.9.
It is hour number 2, mic'd up from Big 12 Football Media Days here in Dallas and Arlington, Texas, here at AT&T Stadium. Jake Klieman along with Dan Lucero for the third straight day here on Mic'd Up. So always enjoy when we get a little Dan Lucero flavor. Dan, how do you like the noon to 3 shift?
You know, it's not so bad. Talking to a bit of a different audience. You know, you're on earlier, so you got to be, you know, got to have the engines revving a little earlier, but you're also off earlier, which you can power down for your day a little bit sooner. There's pluses and minuses, but it's fun to be on with your audience. I'm squatting a little bit, but I'm sure that your audience will be plenty happy to have Fulton Castor back in the chair next to you starting tomorrow.
We got a lot to get to this hour. We are going to talk with Will Howard coming up at the bottom of the hour, the quarterback for the Kansas State Wildcats. We'll get to a little start bench cut coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. So we got a lot to get to here on this edition of Mic'd Up. As it is Big 12 Football Media Days, you can interact with us. Let us know your thoughts on our text line, 9429. Let us know here. And we got the K-State contingent today. Of course, you can hear every single K-State game right here on your home for K-State Athletics, 580 WIBW here in Topeka. And we are going to be talking now with, I got to pull out my magazine.
Phil
That's
Steele,
right.
cover boy in the building.
Wow, we've got Cooper Beebe right there next to Jalen Ford and Dylan Gabriel. Phil Steele's magazine. Cooper Beebe joining us, the preseason All-American. My guy, you're on the cover. Did you think Piper product, the Piper Pirate there, going to be on the cover of the most coveted magazine in college football? There you are, looking good, looking mean, my friend.
Yeah, I never thought that day would ever come. It was a funny story. I was in Frisco here last week. We were walking through the mall, and I saw the magazine. I didn't even realize I was on the cover. I was like, oh, I'll go look at, what they said about K-State. Walking to a Barnes & Noble, and sure enough, I'm like, oh, I was with my parents. Like, wow, I'm on the cover of this. And, of course, my parents had to buy like 8 of them for everybody. But, it's a surreal thing. It's a surreal moment, and I'm truly honored.
So do people recognize you? Like, oh, do you get down in that stance and like, oh, I know that guy. That's Cooper Beebe.
When with my helmet on, people recognize me, but outside, I don't think people are used to seeing what I look like without my helmet on. So, I don't quite get stopped as much as, the Will Howards of the world, but there's the occasional stop here and there.
Will says that he's kind of an honorary O lineman. Is that true?
I would say so. He loves to hang out with us, Doesn't matter, after runs, we have our own little O-line section in the locker room, and he's always there. We're always having a good time. So I would say for sure he's part of the O-line.
Does the O-line play their own music? Do you guys have your own little separate boombox? Because I know a lot of O-linemen like to do that.
Well, we did. So unfortunate, our one speaker we had for like 5 years decided to go out on us because – so we plugged it into, one of the outlets. It didn't work. We plugged it into the other one. It didn't work. So our center, Hayden Gillum, thought it was broken. It just happened the outlets were turned off. So he decided he would give it a ceremonial shower. And so he got it, took it in the shower with him.
Oh, no.
Come to find out, it was because the outlets were turned off. So we just ruined our nice speaker for having it for 5 years. But
he hasn't lived that down, though, has he?
No, not at all.
You can't do it. O-linemen are the absolute. You guys have the most fun of any football position group. You are always together. I say if you find this is the one time where you don't have like 3 of your buddies with you right now. Like normally O-linemen, they're it's like a pack. You're like, and they're so much fun. So I always ask this to the O-lineman group. Where do you hang out with, like, or hang out at? Because you all go to one person's house, and there's like 9 dudes just hanging out, having a great time.
Yeah. So one of our right tackle, Christian Duffy, house he lives at has a pool, so we're there all the time, hanging out. And like you said, where there's one O lineman, there's probably the rest of them. We're a super tight knit group. We love to hang out with each other, and that's what I think make O line special. People kind of think the O-line's weird just because we have that special bond, but, it's something I would never change.
You're always so carefree, too. You just always seem to have a good time. And the best trash talking comes from O-linemen to defensive backs because DBs love to talk. And you're laughing right now because I know it. I've been there. The O-linemen would always chirp at the DBs, but the DBs would do it because they never want to mess with you guys because you're way too big and strong and just one push and you're on the ground. So I got to know, who do you chat with the most at practice who's a defensive back?
Well, it used to be Juju, I always just give him a hard time. But Jordan Wright as a young guy and, the DBs, they'll get broke off and the quarterback will happen to throw a bad ball. It doesn't catch. They're open, but, they drop it. They give the little hands like they had something
to do with it.
Yeah, and they always love to talk. So I'd probably say Jordan Wright. He's a young guy. He loves to chirp, and I think it gets the other O-line fired up.
And they always avoid you. You come at them, and they always move. They don't want any piece of you guys. All right, last thing I want to get to you about this is we were told from one of your teammates that you can put down some food. So that is that is what they said. I'm not going to name one of your teammates, but he's here. So if you want to, you can take it up with him. So do you put down the most food on the O line?
I would probably say I'm high up there. You don't get to be my size without putting down a lot of food. I'd say it'd probably be either me or KT would probably take the ropes.
He did. He said it was either KT or you. So I got to know, when you go to the training table, okay, in the evening, give me a meal.
Oh, geez.
What are we doing here? What are we putting down?
So we're going, some sort of pasta, probably with Alfredo sauce. I'm probably getting 3-4 chicken breasts. Always got to have veggies, so either like green beans. I love salad. And that's usually what my meal. Maybe some rice, mix some different stuff in there. But there's a lot on my plate for sure.
So much food.
It is. It's a lot of food. That's like 4 nights of dinner for me.
Yeah.
We're talking to Cooper Beebe, preseason All-American offensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats here. We're live at Big 12 Football Media Days, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. You had a chance to maybe go into the NFL draft. You had that opportunity. You decided, I want to come back to Kansas State. Were there moments, maybe watching the draft on TV, seeing Felix Anudike-Uzomah get his name called round 1, Julius Brenson round 2, Deuce Vaughn had his moments. Were there some moments? Have there been some moments in this process where you've maybe thought, what if, or are you full steam ahead, no regrets, excited to be back?
No, I'm full steam ahead. I knew I didn't feel like it was my time to leave yet. I still had some things that I wanted to accomplish at K-State. So, I made the decision pretty early, and, I'm sticking with it, and I'm so grateful to be back.
There are now 2 BBs on this roster I'm looking at in the Kansas State Football Media Guide. Of course, there's you, and then there's Camden Beebe, who's a freshman on this year's roster. What has that experience been like, getting to not just help your brother make the transition from high school football to college football, but to do it as his teammate?
There's something about just getting to see a family member every day that, is really helps, with the mental aspect of things. It's you away from your family so often, and you don't get to see them very often, but to have a family member, somebody that you can always turn to, always talk to, really just helps you mentally.
Got a lot of Kansas presence on the offensive line, obviously you and your brother, but Hadley Panzer from Lakin, Hayden Gillum from Plainville. Those Western Kansas boys are built a little different, aren't they?
It's a lot of throwing hay bales and different stuff like that, and I think that's what makes those dudes tough. You go out, to Hadley out there in Lakin, say they don't have a gym. He goes around, throws hay bales around, and does stuff like that. So,
wait, have you've seen this?
I haven't been there personally, but that's what he says.
I believe him.
I've
been to Lakin. I believe him.
I just want to see him do that because those things are so heavy.
Will Howard back as the starting quarterback. You got to see him take over that role last year, mature into it almost in the snap of a finger, and help you guys win a Big 12 championship. How has Will changed? How is he different now as he comes into the season as the unquestioned number 1 quarterback?
I just think his confidence is at an all-time high. Now he knows he has the reins. I just think he's so confident. His ability to lead, not just the offense but the team. He brings all the dudes together, and it's just there's no better dude I'd rather play with than Will.
There was a lot lost on the defensive line from last year's team. We mentioned Felix. Eli Huggins was obviously a huge part of the interior line for a long time. And I've talked to your defensive teammates who are here about this. I think your pass rush group is really underrated coming into the season. You go up against those guys in practice. That group up front, maybe a little bit underrated. What are we going to see from those guys up front this year?
Oh, absolutely. Just started at nose tackle, Big Goose. He's so for a dude that size, he should not be able to move that well. He's going to be a load inside. And then, getting Cleed Duke back healthy, fully back at the defensive end position. I think honestly, he's probably going to be one of the best pass rushers in the Big 12. He's such a underrated guy. He's a freak athlete. And then dudes like Brendan Ma, I think, are super underrated. And then even some freshmen, Cheedy is a guy that I think will get some playing time for us. But yeah, I would say, they're definitely underrated. I definitely think they're going to show out this season.
We're talking with the preseason All-American Cooper Beebe joining us here on Mic'd Up here at Big 12 Football Media Days. And there was one thing that Will Howard did mention. He says, man, one thing I do like, and it's big having a guy who's able to point out stuff. Gillum's able to point out, hey, this is what's going on. Being a veteran offensive line and having so much veteran offensive linemen, how much do you see other people like, Deuce Vaughn back there? How do you see other people, say, it's just so incredible how much better experienced O-linemen are than coming in a little bit young?
I think, one of the benefits is just understanding the game as offensive linemen. We've had a lot of experience, and once you start to understand, what's the offense trying to do and what's the defense trying to do, and you can allow yourself, to block a certain way to where it opens up those holes, where maybe, if you don't understand what the defense is trying to do, you maybe don't quite open up the same holes, if that makes sense. So I'd say just if you can get an offensive line that understands the game of football and understands what defenses are trying to do, it makes it a whole lot easier for the backfield to find those seams, to find those gaps.
Is it different blocking for, Giddens as it is Deuce Vaughn? Do you have to do anything differently now that you got Ward and Giddens? Because they're not like a Deuce Vaughn.
I would just say, like, especially with DJ, I mean, watch your back. He ain't afraid to hit the hole. If he sees a slide open, it don't matter if he's got to run through you. He's a downhill runner. He loves contact. And, with Trayshawn, I think I see a lot of similar things to Deuce. I mean, he's super quick, super agile, has great vision. That was something that really impressed me. In the spring, he's making all these cuts. I'm like, I don't even know how you saw that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's definitely, it's hard to replace Deuce, but we definitely got some good pieces this year.
All righty. When it comes to the off the football side of things, I hear you're a golfer. Not many big dudes like to golf, so take me through. Do you got a handicap? Are we playing frequently?
I'm not the greatest. I'll just throw that out there. I like golf is just kind of a go have fun, with my buddies. And I'm not the greatest, and I've played a lot this summer. I've got a lot better, but, that's one thing I wish I was pretty good at. Like, I'm average. I shoot in the 90s. That's probably good for most people, which, we don't really get the time to play as much as most people. So I'd say, it's probably the best I can do.
That's all right. Yeah, that's what life after football when it comes
Exactly.
to that. When it goes to that. When it does come life, after Kansas State, the NFL. Are you taking any steps to feel things out? Get a little evaluation. How does that work for someone like you?
A lot of the times, I've been obviously meeting with all sorts of agents, and they kind of tell me what NFL teams are saying, and then you get, feedback from Coach Riley, our offensive line coach, and Coach Klieman, just kind of what they hear from their scouts. But, I try to not focus on that too much. I try to just focus on this upcoming season, make sure that I have a great year, and then kind of let pieces fall into place after that.
What O-lineman do you watch in the NFL? Who do you like to follow?
I would say Quentin Nelson is a guy that I like to follow. I think we have a lot of the same kind of physical play style. Of course, I've watched a lot of KState guys, Cody Whitehair, BJ Finney, Dalton Reisner, dudes like that. And that's one of the things that benefited me at KState. You got a lot of these dudes that have had success in the NFL. And, of course, we have all of their film from when they played. So you take different pieces from them that I've added to my game that's helped me elevate my play.
All right, last couple questions for you. Do you guys weigh in before practice and after practice?
Yes.
Okay. Not many people realize this, but the nutrition there at that level is you weigh yourself before you practice, and then you weigh yourself after to see, okay, how much I need to drink, how much I need to eat. I'm always interested in this. What's the most weight that you have lost in one practice there at Kansas State?
Oh, I'd probably say 12, 15 pounds.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
But
that's what I want to point out is that you lost 15 pounds in a span of 3 hours playing a practice because you're outside, you're in the heat. But that's important because you got to ingest, they keep track of that. I mean, you got a nutritionist, all that. But you lost 15 pounds. Old linemen can go from, I'm weighing like 320 before practice, and then you're pushing you probably got it digital. You look down, you're like, wait a minute, 305? What the? Like that always, the most I ever lost was like 5 pounds. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to me. But then my old lineman buddies are like, oh my gosh, I lost 17 pounds. Now, most of it's all water weight, but like that's incredible to me.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, I just got to give a shout out to our nutrition staff, Scott Troush. I mean, he does a great job monitoring all that. And then when we come back the next day and weigh in, it's like, okay, you're still light, go get your fluids in, get this meal in. And they do a really good job of making sure we're taken care of and making sure that stuff's all in line.
All right, last thing, you get to have a couple new teams come to see you. You got Central Florida, as well as you have got Houston. So, what would you right now are tour guide Cooper, okay? Someone, let's say you got a family member in Houston or somebody in Houston's coming up to Manhattan. What are you going to tell them to do? You need to hit up this spot if you want to eat, this spot for something entertainment, this spot here. What are you doing? What do you give your future and your new Big 12 a fan base something to do?
Well, depending on the age group, if you're going to go eat, I would suggest Taco Lucha or So Long Saloon. I think those are the best two in Manhattan. And, for the older crowd, Aggieville is a fun place to be. Yard Bars is one of the top bars out there. I don't know what, much else, really to do out there. But, if you're old enough, I would definitely suggest Aggieville.
Well, we appreciate the time for stopping by. I think this is pretty cool. The fact that your mom bought 8 of these aren't cheap, though, so she's shelling out some serious cash for this. But this is pretty darn cool that your face is on a national magazine. It's well earned. We wish you the best of luck, and hopefully right here, coming up December 2nd, you'll be back right where you're at, near the goal line here at the Big 12 title game.
Yep, thanks for having me.
That is Cooper Beebe, terrific offensive lineman and cover boy. I sure hope the rest of his teammates give him a lot of flack for that, because if they can't, they're doing it wrong. They gotta. I hope they're asking him to like sign it and oh my goodness, all that kind of stuff. That would be a lot of fun.
That's the cover boy.
Exactly. We can't hang out with him. He's big time. Coming up next, we got Everyone Loves the List. We'll talk a little college football, Big 12 games that we're excited for here on Mic'd Up.
BW Topeka FM 104.9.
You just made the list.
Top 3,
top 10, top 5. You just made the list.
Everyone loves the list, and we're ranking the top Big 12 games that we are interested in coming up here for Everyone Loves the List. All right. I almost was going to put it's not a Big 12 game, but it's one of the most games I'm most interested in. It's KU Illinois. But it's not a Big 12 game, so I didn't think you'd allow that. But I want to mention that. KU Illinois, huge game.
It is.
But all righty, number 4 Big 12 games that you're most interested in.
Number 4 for me, that's where I'm going to put the Sunflower Showdown because I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a showcase of the league's 2 best quarterbacks. It's going to be late in the year, so it could be a huge game for K-State trying to make their way back to the Big 12 championship game. Could be a big game for KU fighting for bowl eligibility that late in the year. So going to be a lot on the line, and the 2 best quarterbacks in the league in the Sunflower Showdown this year.
Number 4 for me, it's the first Big 12 game for KU. And it's a huge one. And it's a game that they need to win. It's BYU. New program, first Big 12 game for BYU. But there is a non-zero chance that if KU beats BYU, you are looking at, hey, they could be 4-0. That is a huge stretch there. Illinois and BYU might be the 2 biggest swing games this entire year. And I think KU BYU is a monster one.
Number 3 for me, this is where I'll put Red River. I think Texas-Oklahoma is going to be fascinating this year. Oklahoma got crushed by Texas last year. They're going to be looking to avenge that. It's always a big game, but fascinating this year too.
Didn't have that one because I don't care about Texas and Oklahoma. So
look at you.
I am going K-State versus TCU, the rematch. That is one that I am excited about. That'll be October 21st in Manhattan. Big time game there.
No question about that. For my number 2 game, I am going to go with Texas Tech going to Baylor October 7th because I think that's going to be a really interesting test for TCU.
I have Bedlam because when's the last time Bedlam's going to play?
That's true.
So I got Bedlam number 2, Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma.
Number 1 for me, you already said it, TCU and K-State October 21st. I think TCU is going to be undefeated. K-State's got a little bit of a tougher road, but I could see both teams being unbeaten in the rematch of the Big 12 title game.
Biggest game that I'm excited about is November 4th at Texas for K-State. They haven't beat Texas under Chris Klieman. That game might determine a lot. K-State, Texas is going to be an absolute fist fight. K-State, Texas is the game that I am looking forward to most this year. Coming up next, we're going to hear from QB1 for the K-State Wildcats. Will Howard joins us next year on Mic'd Up.
YBW, Topeka, and FM 104.9.
Football Media Days here in Dallas, Texas, here on Mic'd Up. Jacob Vaughn along with Dan Lucero here with you. We got lots of stuff to get to coming up the rest of this show. The KState contingent is here today here in Dallas at Jerry World, and we're going to bring the guy who helped lead the KState Wildcats to this very end zone. We are in the end zone in which they kicked the game-winning field goal. Fans and everybody rushed the field. Coach Klieman is so excited, and Will Howard probably remembers it. So we bring in the quarterback for the K-State Wildcats, Will Howard here. And Will, does this bring back some good memories here? We're in the end zone. Zenner kicks it through. Take me through. Do you get some flashbacks right now sitting on the end zone right where, Huggins stops Kendre Miller on the goal line? Like, take me through what you're thinking about right now.
Oh, absolutely. This brings back a ton of really good memories. And, just being back in this place, it's such a cool place. It's, it's a huge mecca for college football and for just football in general. Being able to look behind you here and see these goalposts that Ty kicked that ball through. And, man, I remember that feeling. I wasn't even able to look at it. I was looking at the ground. I couldn't look. I knew he was going to make it. As soon as I saw him flash that smile at me as I was running off the field, I knew he was making it. But no, it was an unbelievable experience. And to be back here and kind of feeling those feelings come back a little bit as we walked out on the field, it was really cool.
So take me through what's life been like at this time last year for Will Howard to today, sitting in front of me, Will Howard. Kind of a bit of a big difference from last year at this time to this year. Take me through what's been the biggest difference for you.
Yeah, it's I mean, my world's done a complete 180, and if you were to ask a lot of Kansas State fans at this time last year if Will Howard would be sitting here at Big 12 Media Days as the reigning, as a part of the reigning champion, team, I think a lot of them would say you were crazy. But it's just been so cool to kind of see things make a a full circle effect, and kind of all the work that I put in kind of came full circle, and I'm really excited to see what I can do this year, and what we can do this year, because this is my first year as the guy going into the season. Every other year I've been a backup, kind of been thrusted in, and it's not really been my team and my surrounded around my offense, and I'm really excited to have it be my year and be, something where I am, the cemented starter going into the year. So it's really cool. I'm just glad to be here with all my buddies, and we're having a great time.
Leadership wise, is that something that, hey, that comes natural because I always say this, if your best leader is your quarterback and your quarterback works hard, your locker room's going to be fine, because you need your best leader to be the best worker, because then everybody follows his role. So we've seen the workout videos, and the weight that you're throwing up there, probably embarrassing a couple of linemen out there. But, is that something that comes naturally to you, the leadership aspect? Because now that, that's kind of your locker room.
Yeah, that's been a big focal point of my off season here, has just been, stepping into that leadership role and making sure I embrace it to the best of my ability. And because, as the quarterback of the team, like you said, it's kind of, you're the thermostat, and, the team kind of goes where you go, especially the offense. So I have to make sure that I'm always on and always, taking care of my business, not only on the field, but off the field, and making sure everybody else is doing the same. And I've been trying to get better at that. And now that, it's kind of more my team, it's been nice to kind of step into that role. And I'm looking forward to this season while being in that role. And this whole offseason has done a ton of good for me in that respect, and has allowed me to grow a lot in that aspect. And, I always tried to lead, but, it's different when you're the starter versus the backup, and so I've definitely come a long way in terms of that, and tried to put a lot of emphasis on my leadership and trying to get this thing to where we can run it back and do it again.
What was the biggest change in you when, before the TCU game, the first TCU game in the regular season, versus the years prior? Because, we're sitting there, we're watching the game, you come in, and we're joking, in the next day, I didn't know Dan Marino all of a sudden was in a Wildcat uniform. I mean, you're dropping dimes left and right. And what changed? Was it something, that it clicked? I call it the light bulb moment, where all of a sudden you're just like, I'm a different player. What was was it a mechanical? Was it something about learning the offense? What was it?
To me, I feel like that was always inside of me. And I felt like that was something that I was just waiting to show. And it's all about confidence. And for me, my first 2 years, my confidence was kind of in the dirt after that. I was a young kid that got thrown in there, didn't really know what I was doing, had a bunch of struggles, and was hearing a lot of outside noise, tried to block it out. But a lot of that, kind of got to me a little bit, and being able to go out there last year versus TCU, and kind of, I was like, you know what, I have nothing to lose at this point. I'm going to go out there and just, play and just do what I know I can do. And once I saw myself do that, and just seeing that, in person, like, I was like, man, this is something I can do. This isn't anything new. It's just football. It's something I've been doing my whole life. And once I finally kind of settled in and got to be able to play my game and do what I do, it was really cool. And being able to see myself do that on that stage, I was like, man, I can really do this, and we can really do this.
We're talking with Will Howard, the quarterback of the Kansas State Wildcats, from Big 12 Football Media Days at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Well, let's talk about the guys who are going to be catching the football from you this year in 2023. You lose Malik Knowles and Deuce Vaughn, obviously, but you've got some talent coming back in the pass catching ranks. Ben Sinnott back at tight end, the first team preseason all-conference performer, and some wide receivers that might be ready to take the spotlight this year. Tell me a little bit about that group and what they provide, and how excited you are to throw them the ball this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the guys that we have on the outside, between Phillip coming back, which I thought was huge. I really didn't think we were going to get him back. And, when he sent me that text and told me he was coming back, man, I was so fired up because he's got a lot left in the tank. And he's he's going to be a phenomenal slot guy for us this year. I think RJ Garcia is primed for a really good year too. I think he's doing a lot of really good things right now. I think Keegan Johnson's going to be an absolute stud. It's his first time in this program and in this offense. But, he showed some real flashes in the spring. And once, we get into fall camp in the season and he's really settled into himself, I think it's going to be really cool. And then obviously Ben is an absolute freak of an athlete, being how big he is and as good of an athlete as he is. It's crazy. So I'm spoiled. I got a lot of weapons on the outside. I'd be remiss if I didn't get them the ball when I can.
You mentioned leadership, and it's one thing to lead the offense and be a team leader, but you're also the head of the quarterback room. And this is a really talented quarterback room. There are a lot of guys in that room who have tremendous futures, and you're at the head of that class right now. So how important is your mentorship for the Avery Johnsons, the Jake Rubleys, guys like that who are chomping at the bit and would love to play, and you've got to lead that group and lead by example and make sure that when their time does come, that they have learned from your example?
Yeah, that's a huge part of what we do, and we always say that, Coach Klein harps on the fact that there's only one quarterback out there, but it's us as a room. It's no one person at a time. We're all together. We're all in this thing together, and we're all playing for the same team. There's no, we're all competing against each other, obviously, but it's us. And when I was a young kid, I had the privilege of being able to play behind Skylar and Adrian a little bit, and just being able to learn from those guys when they were a little older and I was a little younger. I'm in the position where I'm a little older, and I want to be able to give back to those guys, and all of those guys are awesome. And Jake's been with me a while. He was only a year behind me, and Avery, being a freshman right now, they all want to ask questions. They're all, always wondering what's going on. And I like to, bring everybody along when we watch film, so we're all on the same page about everything, and that's a big thing. I mean, I really think we have one of the best quarterback rooms in the country, talent-wise and all of the above, and character-wise. It's a lot of fun. We have fun in there, and on top of that, obviously, we have incredible talent.
I think every quarterback in the country, if you asked them, what would you like to have going into a season? I think a lot of them would say, 5 returning starting offensive linemen would be quite nice.
Yeah.
You are fortunate enough to have that. Tell us about that group of guys who are going to be protecting you this year. Obviously, ton of experience, ton of talent up there. But tell us a little bit, give us some insight in the personality of that group and how much fun it is to have those guys.
Man, it's those guys are so much fun. I love just going and hanging out with them after practice, just sitting in their section of the locker room. Although it smells kind of bad, it's
they're the most fun.
They're the most fun. I'm telling you, those guys are a riot, man, and I love hanging out with them. I'm so glad that they all made the decision to come back. I'm spoiled. Like I really am. Like with 5 returning offensive linemen, as good as they all are, we got a ton of leadership in that room as well. So I'm really looking forward to what those guys can do this year, because honestly, what last year, it was really their first year all together. It was Gilly's first year starting. It was KT's really first year cemented as a starter. Duffy's obviously been around for a while, and Bubba, Hadley Panzer, it was his first year too. Like they felt like there was a lot more left to do, and being able to have all those guys who came back and wanted to come back. I'm lucky, we all are lucky that they decided to do that. And, I'm spoiled as a quarterback, because now I'm not worried about that at all. Those guys take care of so much on the offensive front. Gilly's calling out all the IDs. He takes a lot off my plate. So having those guys is truly a privilege.
We're talking with Will Howard here at Big 12 Football Media Days here on Mic'd Up. And why is it that O-linemen are so much fun? Like I always tell people, O-linemen are the best interviews. They're the most charismatic. They always hang out together. You won't, if you see one offensive lineman, there's like at least look around, there's going to be 3 more around there. They don't really hang out with the defensive linemen. They always joke the most with the defensive backs, So why do you think that is?
I don't even know what I can't really put my finger on it, what it is, but man, those guys are so funny. They're just carefree. I feel like they're just out there. They're just here to have a good time. They're just all out there banging heads with people, and then they come in the locker room, they're just messing around. They don't have a care in the world.
No.
It's awesome to see. I love that. It's like, it gives me a little life.
Do they like adopt you as like an O lineman, even though you're the quarterback because you're as big as the O line? I don't know if you realize this, but how many times do you walk around and let's say somebody doesn't know you and you're like, well, I play football. You don't want, I play football. And they're like, oh, sweet. O line, tight end. You're like, yeah, no. The photo of the 4 of you guys here in front of the thing, someone took a photo of it. Fitz did, our good friend Fitz, and the number one like caption on it is pick out the quarterback, and you're like so much bigger than everybody else. Like, do you get that a lot?
It's funny the amount of times that if people don't know who I am, they're just like, who you play football? You play basketball? You play football? And I say I play football. And what, tight end? Defensive end, something like that. I'm like, no, quarterback. They're like, I had somebody told me that I was too big to play quarterback the other day. I was like, I didn't know that was a thing, but okay. It's pretty funny. Cooper's always joking with me about me, because like on the plane ride here, they were like, the bigger guys got to probably go to the back, and Cooper was like, hey, Will, me and you will be in the back. But no, we have a good time. It's fun.
That's a lot of fun. I do have to bring this up. So who was hosting the recruiting visit for some guy named Ryan Howard? I don't know. Do you know who's his host? Who's his host?
He's a stud. No,
how is that kind of cool that you got to host your brother?
I didn't actually get to host.
Really?
That weekend that he was at on his official, I was at the Manning Passing Academy down in Louisiana.
That's a good enough reason to skip, I think.
That's a sweet flex. Yeah, what were you doing? I was hanging out with Peyton Manning, and
Yeah. So I mean, like he wanted me to be there, obviously, but I feel like it worked out a little bit because he got to kind of have his own experience. And because, when he comes and I'm there, he ends up probably hanging out with the guys that are my age, but he got to kind of hang out with the guys that are a little younger, that he'll be with here his whole time. Mike Capria, he hosted him. I know Gilly was with him for most of it too. So he took care of him and made sure that they had a good time. My family, obviously. And that's the thing, like they've been out here so many times, they didn't need to do everything. So I think they got a couple of breaks. Ryan got to take a nap while they were checking out the freshman dorms, because obviously I lived there, and Ryan had stayed there with me. So he knows the ins and outs of this place. And it's so cool that he decided to come here. When in the beginning of it, I told him, I said, man, listen, like you got to do what you got to do, make your own path. Like, don't feel like you have to come here. I would love you to come here. And I was definitely, tugging on him to come here, but I said, I get it. You got to make your own path and do your own thing. And I don't want you to feel like you have to follow my footsteps. But he loved what we were doing here. He saw it. He'd been around it. And he said, I want to be a part of that. And it was so cool when he made that decision that weekend, and being able to be with him when he told Coach, and he came out and we're all, hugging each other in the hallway.
Awesome.
It was awesome.
So what is Will Howard do in the summertime besides going to the Manning Passing Academy? What do you like to do in your downtime? Is there something that you get together with other guys? You're really, really busy in the summertime. People don't realize that. So what are you doing in the summertime?
We are very busy, and that's so we don't have a ton of time, but when we do, I love to golf. Golfing is a lot of fun. And
do you have a handicap? Are we that serious?
No.
Not yet.
No,
okay.
I am not good enough for that. If you want to talk to a good golfer, talk to Ben Sinnott. That dude can freaking smoke the ball.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We were out at Jordy Nelson's tournament, played in his foundation tournament, and Ben hops up on the first tee. It's the long ball, the long drive hole, and he puts it on the green on like a par 4. I was like, dude,
What course are you playing?
It was in Leonardville. It was a sand green.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
It's a sand green 9-hole course.
That's
it's
old
smaller.
school.
Yeah, it was old school. But no, I love golfing. Sometimes we go out and fish. We go out on the lake and Tuttle.
Who's got the boat?
One of my so we went out. The quarterbacks, a bunch of us went out. We kind of like got with a guy that I think it was friends with Coach Klein, and hopped on his boats and went out there. Me and Jake caught like 8 blue catfish. I don't think Avery got a bite the whole night. Like he was sitting out there. The poor kid was just, kind of waiting. And me and Jake are over there like reeling them in. And Avery's over there like, sitting with his hand in his face in his hand.
Last thing we got for you. You can throw your teammates under the bus. What do we need to ask Kobe Savage, Daniel Green, and Mr. Beebe? What can we ask them today? You can embarrass them a little bit as well. That's okay. It's all right. Well, this is a trust tree. We're in the nest.
Definitely ask Cooper how much he's sweating. because he is always sweating. I'm telling you, like when he comes over here, there might be a pit stain.
Okay, they're not running the AC here at AT&T Stadium today.
That was the thing. So he's been worried about sweating all day.
Okay,
Deuce sweats more than anybody. I've been lifting with him the last couple of days too, and like when we bench, like he literally has to like wipe off the whole bench afterwards because it's so wet. But I don't know. Kobe, ask him about I don't know. Ask him if his dad made it. I know his dad was trying to get in here. So ask him if he made it. I know. I always see him on Twitter, and he's very active on Twitter, which is really funny. So
awesome.
I always give him a hard time about that, and that'd be cool to see him. But yeah, that's all I got. I don't know.
No, that's all right.
I don't got too much.
Good stuff.
We got some ammo that we can have some fun with them.
Yeah.
Well, Will, we appreciate the time. Best of luck this upcoming year for the Cat season. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
That is Will Howard, the starting quarterback of the Kansas State Wildcats. And I think people don't realize just how big of a guy he is.
He's so big.
He's bigger than – first of all, did you notice that? He probably didn't even realize that. He goes, yeah, I was lifting weights with Daniel Green. Daniel Green is a middle linebacker who's 6'3", 245.
Howard made him look small,
and
they walked in together,
and he's bigger than Daniel Green. Like, that's what I don't think people quite understand is Will Howard and just how big he is for not just how big he is for a. I mean, he's 6'5", 240. I mean, he's Cam Newton.
Yeah,
like
that's not far. Yeah, not far off.
I mean,
Newton was 6'6", 250.
Yeah. So like that's why it's kind of strange to see when it comes to that. So always good to talk with Will Howard. Confidence, man. If you don't think confidence is a big deal,
huge deal.
It's a big deal. And you know what? And I think we've done this already for our on second thought before. But, I mean, we poked fun at Chris Klieman when he said Will Howard's the best backup in the country. And we're all like, oh, gosh, come on, jeepers, what are you talking about? He might have been right.
And it's so cool to see that, though, because obviously, like, you've got a certain level of talent if you make it to a Division I institution to play college football. You've got the goods. So there was no, like, I'm sure Will Howard had the goods. We just didn't get to see it. We didn't play well when he got those first opportunities. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't often happen that somebody that we in college football, that we see somebody in the same spot struggle and learn. And when they get a second chance at the same opportunity, it goes like it did for Will Howard. So it's a really neat, and I think a really rare college football redemption and growth story. It's been really fun to follow. And you talk about a kid comfortable in his own skin, comfortable being the leader of this football team. I'm excited to see what it looks like for Will this year, no doubt.
Coming up in the 2:00 hour, we got a lot to get to. Fun interview that we had with Tom Holmoe. He is the AD of BYU. He also played with Andy Reid. We're going to get to that, start, bench, and cut, all coming up in the final hour here on Mic'd Up.
WIBW, Topeka, and FM 104.9.
It is the final hour of Mic'd Up from Big 12 Football Media Days here in Arlington, Texas, and AT&T Stadium. Jake Vaughn and Dan Lucero with you here at the goal line for the final hour here, talking all things Big 12 football. We will have much more coming up in the edition of 580 Sports Talk. We'll hear from Chris Klieman. We'll hear from Gene Taylor. We'll hear from Kobe Savage, Daniel Green. A lot of good stuff from the K-State contingent. If you missed any of that from the KU side of things, it is up on our website. Very simple, very easy to get to. If you want to hear from everyone there, you can go to our website, 580wibw.com. Also, of course, our YouTube page. Very simple, very easy. YouTube.com. You search Sports on 580, click on it, hit the subscribe button as well, and you can listen to all of the audio from Big 12 Media Days. Had a lot of fun thus far, and we will get to maybe one of the most unique interviews that we've had all week. It feels like we've been here for a long time. But yesterday, we had a chance to talk with the BYU AD, Tom Holmoe. Now, you're thinking BYU, okay. Well, we wanted to get an AD from one of the new schools to see how everything's going. BYU is a little bit different, a little bit more of a national brand. And he's got a unique relationship as he played at BYU the same time that Andy Reid did. And we got into that. We talked a little NFL, Super Bowl championship, not once but twice. So we had a chance to run down the BYU AD Tom Holmoe, and boy, it was a lot of fun. On BYU, we bring in the Director of Athletics, Tom Holmoe, joining us. And before we get into any BYU, we are a Chiefs affiliate, and you already know where I'm going with this, Tom. I got to know, give us the dish. What's it like to be a teammate of Andy Reid's?
Well, not only a teammate, but we came on a recruiting trip the same year.
No way.
It was a junior college transfer, and I was coming out of high school. So there was another JC lineman from his school, and Andy and I got on the plane, came up, had our visit. We all three committed. And so he knows that he had one of these like Volkswagen Bugs? Well, not Beetle. Like vans. Volkswagen van.
Old school.
That's what he drove. And like I was always hitching a ride from Provo to LA. He grew up in Hollywood.
Yep.
Right.
And so I grew up about probably a half an hour from him. And so he'd drop me off and pick me up on the way back.
No kidding.
I was a frequent hitchhiker with Andy. And then, at the time when we were up there together, neither one of us was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We were both converts. So on Sundays, we'd go up fishing or we'd go up to Park City or Heber, and he had a favorite eating place.
Of course.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah. Did he like cheeseburgers back then?
He was tacos back then. But he was just from the time, like what you see him now is what he was like then. And the fact that it's the other way. Where I saw him back then, you would think that, I played in the NFL and coached in the NFL, and I've seen what the NFL can do to you.
I don't think people realize your resume, Tom.
He's the same guy now as he was when he came to BYU when I first met him. It hasn't changed one bit.
A DB and an O lineman,
we got along like
best friends.
Salt and pepper.
We're talking with the athletic director of BYU, who, by the way, folks, and that's what Dan and I were talking about. We're like, guy walking around here with 2 Super Bowl rings. Nobody knows probably your history there with San Francisco. And I mean, you're teammates with Ronnie Lott and Jerry Rice and John Taylor. And I mean, I can go on and on and on. I didn't mention Joe Montana, so I got to know, how often did you lock up Jerry Rice?
Not often. I mean, I played 7 years, and I played behind Ronnie Lott. So I think in 7 years I started 7 games. Those are the 7 games he was hurt. But in my practice, I went against Jerry every day, and I mean, you either quit or you get better. And so that was quite the time to be in San Francisco with Bill Walsh, head coach, and George Seifert, and then when I went back as a coach. I had Deion Sanders. I was the DB coach, and he was a corner for 1 year before he came to Dallas. So, I mean, I just was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time.
That's incredible. Like, that really, truly is. And now we can transition it to, not only have you done that in, your athletic life. By the way, you still look like you could get up and down here real quick. I can tell.
Watch they walk away, and then you'll change your mind.
And now you're helping transition BYU to this new conference. Take me back. You've been the athletic director for a little bit now. How did it go about getting the call and coming into the Big 12? And was it a shoo-in? Was this a no-brainer or okay, yeah, let us talk it over. We got to have a meeting, and you hang up the phone and you're like, yeah, we're going.
It's a long story, but I'll give you the Cliff Note version. BYU's been trying to get into a P5 conference for 50 years.
Really?
And Lavelle Edwards, our great legend coach, he had it close at times. We won the national championship in '84. He had 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in a row. We had Giff Nielsen, Mark Wilson, Jim McMahon, and Steve Young, with Robbie Bosco snuck in there as the national championship quarterback. And that was a really, really great time. And, at that point in time, there wasn't much about changing the landscapes. Arizona and Arizona State had gotten into the Pac, it used to be the Pac-10 or Pac-8, went to the Pac-10 with Arizona and Arizona State right in 78. So like, it was not the right time when BYU was at the top of his game. They had already made some Pac-12 changes. So, but after that, there was a time when BYU thought they were in the Big 12, and there's all kind of urban legend about why they're not. But this goes back to like the 90s, late 90s, and then, or middle 90s, I think it was. Then in 2016, when they had that kind of quote unquote open audition, we went down, made a proposal to Bob Bowlesby and their general counsel, and we thought we knocked their socks off. We thought it was a great presentation. The numbers fit. They were impressed. And then they decided as a conference that they just weren't going to expand. And, I understand that, and that was their business and prerogative. But from that point in time, in our preparation for trying to make a presentation, we realized, looking at all the numbers, we hadn't done the research, and we were actually stronger than we felt we were. So we tried to fight, just to get better and better and better. Independence gave us a lot of exposure, gave access to our fans who are across the country. We grew Cougar Nation. Donations went up. Sponsorships went up. We had great access with ESPN on national TV. And so all those things came to the point where just 2 years ago, Bob Bowlesby got a call. Tom, we think it's time. You guys ready to come in? Yes. After I picked myself off the floor. So it kind of happened fast at the end, but it was really a 40-year time frame of building a really solid, stable brand. It wasn't a great lead the nation in all things, but I think a lot of people don't realize, like, since Lavelle Edwards got there in 72, BYU is the 8th winningest team in college football. People don't realize that for a long, long time. We were winning 10, double-digit games almost every year. So, the last Independence was a tough climb. We had some down years, we had some good years, and just kind of I think the stars had to align. And thank goodness that Oklahoma and Texas left, or we might still be looking at an independent schedule this year.
The one thing that we get a lot from listeners is the travel. How does it make sense for BYU to play Houston, to play Central Florida, to play West Virginia? You're out there kind of all on your own up there in Provo. So I'll ask you, how do you make it work with the travel with all the other sports?
In Independence, we were 11 years as an independent. We went everywhere. We had this expression, anytime, any place, anywhere. And we played Georgia Southern at Georgia Southern. We played at Middle Tennessee. So I'm talking, talking group of 5 teams where normally we wouldn't probably, go on the road and play a team, but they were good games and we took them and we got out to our fans. And that was kind of a cool thing. But we also played UCF, played Houston, we played Cincinnati, home and homes. We played Notre Dame. We played so many teams. So we weren't sequestered in a conference that just played in a geographical league. For 11 years, we played everywhere.
Is that same with all sports?
Yeah. Oh, no. Just football.
Just football.
So we were in the West Coast Conference, which didn't have football.
That's right.
And that was a geographic league. San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Portland, Spokane. So I think we're travel-wise, our people are not too concerned. The Olympic teams, sports, that's a little bit of a different thing.
Yeah.
You're talking about, millions of dollars of travel increase budget, but you're also, getting into a league that's going to pay you more money. Is it going to be worth it for the travel? Or are we going to have to learn how to adapt? And, I know, like for football, whenever we'd play on the East Coast, we'd leave on Thursday for a Saturday game. And that's something that we felt we had to do. We played Michigan in one of those Big Ten 11 o'clock games. And we went out on Friday and had some event on Friday night and played 11 o'clock Saturday. We woke up at about 1:30 and the game was over. And so our coach said, I don't think we can come out on Fridays anymore for these East Coast games. And so we've adapted, had some practice adapting, but I think there's a lot of other issues that just make it tough. It's a tough league, and it's going to be a tough transition.
Tom Holmoe is the athletic director at BYU, joining us here from Big 12 Media Days in Arlington at AT&T Stadium. Tom, how much of an advantage from a football perspective is it to have a head coach in place during this transition Kalani Sitake, who's not only been with your program for some time, but was also part of a similar transition. He was on the staff at Utah when they moved into the Pac-12. How advantageous is that to have Kalani at the helm right now, who knows what this process is like and can help your program, the version of what it is, what it was yesterday, become the version of what it can be long-term and short-term in the Big 12?
I think it's a good insight. Kalani had that experience, and so as soon as we have announced it, both Kalani and I have been working to kind of reformulate the structure of football, meaning it's not just about his coaching staff, but it's about that support staff. And when Utah went through those changes with the support staff, you're talking about development directors and recruiting coordinators and those kind of things, performance enhancement, strength coaches, all of those things. They expanded. They made some decisions that they felt they didn't need, and they made some that they didn't make some that they felt they did. So I think we have a little bit of a head start, at least for what Kalani's seen and witnessed, that we've made those changes in the last 2 years. The first year we gradually started, and then last year we've gotten to the point. So it was our strategy that by the time we enter, we would have a complete staff, not get to the Big 12 and then start making the changes that are going to have an effect on your competitive advantage.
What are your impressions of Brett Yormark as commissioner of this league?
I like it. I mean, I don't think anybody can come to this event or listen to some of the things that he's said and witness what he's done and not think that he's been a great benefit for this new group. I think he's done a really good job in leadership of connecting a group of 8 legacy schools, 4 newcomer schools, and 2 schools on their way out. And I've kind of tried to make a point of it, not intentionally, but as it comes up, this question, there was a lot of tension when Oklahoma and Texas left in the conference before we got there. But I think both Oklahoma and Texas have both done a good job of, keeping things slow, low, not worrying about it too much. And I think the Legacy 8 have done a good job of going, okay, you're on your way out. Let's make the most of these next 2 years. You look at last year, and KState had a great year. TCU had a great year. Texas and Oklahoma are down, but, here we are this next year. Texas is expected or projected to be the champ. And I think that Brett has done a good job of bringing all the schools, the presidents, the ADs, and the coaches through that period, which it could have been super rough. So we're coming into this season now, the last one with the 14, in a pretty darn good fashion.
We're talking with the athletic director of BYU, Tom Holmoe, joining us. And one of the questions, when hey, we're going to come to Kansas State, going to come to KU, no playing on Sundays. How is that factored into the schedule when it comes to joining the Big 12?
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with football, thank goodness. But when we went down and made that presentation in 2016, we had put out a whole a spreadsheet that showed exactly what we're talking about. So when you break it down to say like tennis and say they play tennis in the Big 12, well, you're going to play once, you're going to deal with it once every 2 years, to where it's not really that big of a factor. And we showed that we've been doing this for the entire length of our school. So being in the WAC, being in the Mountain West, and being in the WCC, they asked the same questions every time we went to go into the league. And it's a matter of, like, for soccer this year, they'll play on Sunday. The teams in the conference will still play on Sunday, except for when they play BYU. Yep. And in those particular times, we'll go Thursday, Monday, instead of Friday, Sunday. Yep. So you're like, I mess up the whole schedule. Well, you either have to play them up front. I mean, it's either you're playing Thursday and finish on Sunday, or Friday and Monday. So one time a year when you do that, and in soccer, we'll probably not even end up playing everybody once. I'm not exactly sure how that works with the schedule. I don't know. I should know that if it's come out or not. But I'm not even sure if you're going to have to do that, who you play and when you play that. Baseball makes it a little trickier because
the Friday, Saturday,
we go
Sunday.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so you're taking the day. If you played on Sunday, a team might have to play on Thursday. And that's one time a year where you have to move up one day. So I think everybody in the league talked about it and said, "Oh, if you want BYU, that's what you're going to have to do." And everybody agreed to do it. So I'm happy they agreed to do it.
All righty. When it comes to, Brett Yormark said, I'm not going to talk about it, expansion. The name that's been obviously floated around, it's in the Pac-12. It's the four corner schools. Utah. They call it the Holy War for a reason. But, is Utah something that, hey, you know what? That would be, everybody talks about travel partners, like, oh, great. Now Iowa State has got Cincinnati, great travel partner. West Virginia has at least now, Central Florida. That's a great travel partner. Yeah. BYU, beautiful area. You see photos like when BYU's announced going to the Big 12, you're like the LaVell Edwards Stadium. Just everybody's like, you got to go up there. It's going to be awesome. But there's no travel partner. Is that something that, hey, you know what? Even though it's Utah, those are the Utes, not necessarily the greatest of friendships there. You on board with something like that?
The thing that's interesting is that BYU and Utah have more in common than any other school that we'd have in the country. It's just like, we're both from Utah. We have similar understanding of the weather. We've been playing each other. We know each other like the back of our hand. It's an incredible rivalry. When you play each other, it doesn't matter what the sport is, it's filled. I think like during the 11 years of playing independent and they're in the Pac-12, we still played them. And not every single game, but Mark Harlan and I, got together and said, we're going to play. We're not going to let our Olympic sports say we don't want to play. It gets a little crazy sometimes with the fans, but the respect level between the coaches and the players is as good as any team we would play. So, hey, Utah, I'd have no problem. It would be a benefit and a blessing. Like, I mean, if you talk about finances and stuff with our games, we sell out everything anytime they come. And I think that, it's just like what was like Kansas State. That's what would you do if you weren't playing that game?
Yeah. That's the way we feel about Kansas State, Nebraska, and KU, Missouri not playing. I hate it. I can't stand it.
I don't. And they once they've gotten different leagues, they make it like we can't. It's just there's not enough non-conference games. But we've played, and we're independent, of course. But even with us going in the Big 12, we're not playing this year. But that was scheduled before we went into the Big 12. But we're scheduled to play in 24, 25, 26. So even being in the Big 12, we'll have that big game on our football schedule.
All righty, last two for the road. Very simple, very easy. I got to go back to the NFL. What was it like on the sidelines? Joe Montana in the Super Bowl, 88. You beat the Bengals. I got to know, was he really Joe Cool? Is he dropping back? All right, guys, we're going to do this and this. And he fires one to Taylor on the slant in the end zone. I mean, it's that iconic highlight. You're there. You guys win that game. Take me through that game.
Well, the answer to the question is, yeah, he was Joe Cool. I mean, you guys got to see him in Kansas City for what? How many years?
2 years.
2 years.
Yep. That was my youth. Like I remember, I was like, oh my gosh, we got Joe Montana. Even though it's like Kroger brand version Joe Montana, he wasn't Joe Montana. Like in at the 49ers, but he's still. We should have made the Super Bowl that year.
I mean, Joe was everything that everybody says he was. He's just a great player. Everybody knows that. Great guy, great friend, great teammate. I'm going to tell you one story about that particular game. So there's a timeout, TV time. I think they punted the ball. We get backed up, and I think we're like close to the 10-yard line backed up. So we have close to 90. I don't know if it was 92 or 88, but it was a long ways to go. And there's just a little bit of time left on the clock. So players come out on the field, still on a commercial break. They get in the huddle, and it's just like right here, you could imagine For those of you not watching on TV, we're on the radio right here. Joe looks back, and there's John Candy, the actor, standing right back in the back of the end zone. And Montana's like, hey, guys, look at John Candy's right back there. Look at this. So all the players, and we have pictures of it, all the players turn around, and they're like, hey, you got 49ers, the last drive of the Super Bowl, going, hey, look, it's John Candy. And John Candy's like, what's the matter with these guys? And in Montana, you could see it, like all of a sudden, it's just the pressure, and it comes down. And he steps in the huddle and goes, boys, let's go win this game. Boom. And then went down, and that's legend.
Yeah.
But like people try to debunk that. It's true. That's how it went.
Alrighty. You played also with Jim McMahon. How unique of an experience was that playing with McMahon?
He's probably my favorite teammate that I've ever had. We were really close friends, and he loved the game so much. And it was like so easy for him. The game came so easy to him, but he was such a great teammate. And, when the defense was on the field, he was on the sideline on a knee. He wasn't on this bench getting into his psyche or something like that. He was all in for all of us. And with McMahon, when on defense, you came off the field, you'd want to watch because you didn't want to miss a thing. And he was great with his offensive linemen. You know how we'd butt heads with the Bears with the offensive linemen? He started that at BYU. This legend has it that he was kind of a rebel. But like, here's the thing that I can say is that Lavelle Edwards, the namesake of our stadium, and McMahon were like that. They loved each other. They had an incredible relationship with each other, and they trusted each other so much. And because of that, that was the heyday of BYU football, McMahon and Coach Edwards.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, for the time. We appreciate it, taking us and indulging us and taking story time. I can't. That's amazing that Andy Reid was a taco guy. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for the time. Welcome, BYU. Looking forward to it. I know KU, you head to KU this upcoming year. That's actually your first Big 12 game this year.
Big 12
That's
game.
right. That'll be coming up.
Yeah.
So we're excited for that. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Thanks.
That is Tom Holmoe, the BYU AD, who's excited about joining the Big 12, but also former, how about that, recruiting visit with Andy Reid. Can you imagine driving from Provo to Hollywood with Andy Reid in a VW van?
I need the movie.
That's incredible.
That's a road trip movie right there.
That's incredible. Driving back and forth. Andy Reid, big taco guy in college.
I don't know where you're finding elite tacos in Provo, but I'll tell you what.
If there's someone going to find him,
Andy Reid is going to find him.
Andy Reid going to find
He's
him.
going to be that guy. So off the air, we continue to talk to Tom Holmoe off the air, and gregarious, engaging, wonderful guy. We had a great time talking to him, obviously.
I mean, he's like 6'5", like still built.
Yes, you can tell he used to play.
And his finger was all jacked up like Ron Glass.
he had a dislocated finger. You can just tell. He had that feel. He had that walk, the stance, like somebody used to play. You can always tell a former player. Anyway, so we're talking to Tom off the air, and he mentioned that every year they take a trip, him and the head coach of the Cougars, Kalani Sitake, they go and they watch a Chiefs game. They go to like a Monday night game, and they fly private. And he mentioned that the donor who gets the use of the plane, he says that we have a donor who's built all the Costcos in the world. You're benching me? Cut him. Yeah, cut him.
Had a little technical difficulty here at AT&T Stadium here in Dallas.
Bench the power strip, cut the extension cord.
And I don't know what we're doing. Hopefully we'll hold here. We only got 20 more minutes. Can we hold on
Fingers
AT&T
crossed.
Stadium for 20 more minutes? That's all we got.
Should we finish the anecdote before we do start Spanish cut?
Yeah, we will get to that, but you've got to hear this story. I mean, it's a funny one when it comes to just how Tom Holmoe might have one of the most interesting lives in the history of the world.
He really might. Like he by far, he gotta be top 5 most interesting person here, and he's probably not number 5. And he's talking about how he and Kalani Sitake will go see Andy Reid's Chiefs play in like a Monday night game, and they'll fly private. And he was describing the gentleman who provides the private jet as a donor who built all the Costcos in the world. Which is quite a claim, right? Like, built all the Costcos? Like, in the world? Like, that's quite a claim. So naturally, we had to do some digging. And we discovered that that's really not that much of an exaggeration. The gentleman in question, his name is King Hussein, not King Hussein of Jordan, not him. No, this is an Indian gentleman, an Indian American gentleman, an engineer named King Hussein, who founded Span Construction and Engineering, and who got the Costco contract in October 1989, and has built Costcos throughout North America, Canada, Mexico, the United Kingdom, Taiwan, and Australia, per Wikipedia.
First of all,
not an exaggeration. He has built the Costcos in the world.
I did not know Costco was in Australia and Taiwan.
I didn't either.
Did not know that. But that just casual. Yeah, he's like, cause he was like, yeah, we go to because he's clearly good friends with Andy Reid, and he says, yeah, we go to Monday night game. We leave, at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock or whatever, fly private right into the downtown airport probably, and they arrive right at kickoff. When the game is over, they get back on the plane, fly back, so Kalani is there for workouts on Tuesday. I mean, we're talking, it is probably like a 6-7 hour trip. That's it, hour and a half in the plane, and you got to have somebody that can foot the bill for that, and
It's the guy who built all the Costcos in the world.
Built all the Costcos.
It's such a flex. And this is the thing you have to understand about Andy Reid. When Tom Holmoe said like they're friends for life, like that is Andy Reid. Like you don't just pass through Andy Reid's life. If you make a difference, if you are his friend, if you are his coworker, Andy Reid is a extremely loyal dude. I'll pass this along, and I don't mean to name drop here, but those of you who've listened to me for long enough, you might have heard that I have mentioned that I had along the line a great uncle who coached in the NFL for quite a long time. That's why I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan. Anyway, my great uncle was on the staff in Green Bay with Andy Reid. He was the offensive line coach under Mike Holmgren, and Andy Reid for a time was the tight ends coach there. It was one of his first NFL jobs.
O-line coach, tight ends coach. They're like the same.
Yeah, they really are, especially in the early 90s, right? Like, because tight ends at that point are just offensive linemen who occasionally go out for routes. Although in Mike Holmgren's offense, that's how it started to change. But anyhow, so my uncle's known Andy Reid since the early 90s, and they still keep in touch today. My great uncle's been out of the game. He hasn't been coaching for, gosh, I think the last gig he had was NFL Europe in like the mid 2000s. So he's been out of the game. He's been retired for a while, but he and Andy Reid still stay in touch routinely, like every week, frequently. They talk all the time, and that's just who Andy Reid is. He's loyal, and he's loyal to his people, and certainly you can see that loyalty reflected back in all the people who root for him to this day. So it was cool to catch up with a former teammate of his, Tom Holmoe. Really, really enjoyed that interview. Hope you did too.
The only people who apparently don't like Andy Reid are Le'Veon Bell and Shady McCoy. Right? About it. I don't know many other people who, Marcus Peters even has love for Andy Reid when it comes to that, even though he was like, yeah, nope, it's time to move on, and we will go from there. All right. It's time for start, bench, and cut when it comes to I'm going to keep it Big 12 related, okay?
Okay.
I am going to go with we'll go with the coaches that are here today. Start, bench, cut. I'm not going to include Chris Klieman, okay?
Okay.
Not going to include him because he's going to be your start. So I'll go with Scott Satterfield, Neil Brown, Brent Venables.
Oh, that's interesting. Ooh. You know, I think this is pretty easy. I'm going to start Brent Venables because I still think that there's an upside for him in that Oklahoma job. And I think that he will have learned a lot from year one. I think his players kept playing hard for him at the end of year one and won 6 games. I still think he does a good job on the recruiting trail, too. So I'm going to start Venables. I'm going to bench Satterfield. And I'm going to cut Neil Brown.
I didn't include Joey McGuire or Chris Klieman because that's.
I like both. I like both those guys very much.
It would have been fun if you put both of them together. Maybe, okay, Klieman, McGuire, Malzahn.
I'm starting Klieman, I'm benching Malzahn, and I'm cutting McGuire because he hasn't won anything yet. I mean, Malzahn's got a national championship.
Okay.
That's the tiebreaker there. Maybe that's not germane to what they've got going now here in the Big 12, but that's the tiebreaker there because I think Malzahn's a good coach. I think those 3 are all good coaches. My start bench cut has to do with the beverage cart here at Big 12 Media Days. Start bench cut, Dr. Pepper, 7-Up, RC Cola. Know you're a big RC guy.
Well, I'm starting Dr. Pepper. I've been a loyal Dr. Pepper guy from the get-go, man. Dr. Pepper is number one. So start Dr. Pepper. I'm gonna have to bench 7-Up. Who liked Sprite yesterday? I don't remember who it was. But they love Sprite. Which KU?
Oh gosh, was that?
I'm telling. Was it?
Was that Jalen? No, because we were talking about drinks with Jalen. We're talking about apple juice.
I think it was, but
I think it was Jalen.
They have a raspberry Sprite now.
Strawberry.
Or strawberry Sprite. It is awesome. I can't stress to you enough how good it was. It was so good. Beg your pardon.
Lemonade Legacy? I have had that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
It is
solid.
No, it's not pretty good. It is terrific.
Okay.
I put a little bit higher octane stuff with it to make it even better.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that. So, yes. It actually says here, one of the things, strawberry Sprite summertime drink.
Might have been Devin Neal we were talking about.
I love that.
Yeah, this was Devin Neal.
So I'm going to start 7-Up, Sprite, same thing. And then I'll cut RC. You just can't get RC, man. You can't get.
But you love it.
I do love it. I love
You're
it.
gonna grab 6 cans on your way out of here, probably.
No, I got my big giant racetrack mug.
Oh yeah.
Although I didn't bring it in, so all the Gatorade's in there is hot. But maybe we can find one on the way out here, and I can refill it.
I'm sure we can.
And we're stopping on Buc-ee's on the way out.
Yes, we got to make a Buc-ee's run.
Yes.
If anybody wants anything, hit us up. No, I'm just kidding. Do not hit us up. We are already ferrying Buc-ee's goods home for our friends and loved ones.
Yes, yeah. Beaver nuggets will be purchased, and who knows what else is going to be there at Buc-ee's because it's fantastic. It's great, and I wish we had one. I really, really did. That'll do it for Start, Bench, and Cut. Coming up next, we will finish things off here from Jerry World. Wrap up these last 2 days here from Big 12 Media Days. Kind of put a bow on all of that. And then we'll hand it off to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Fulton will hear from Gene Taylor. Good stuff from Gene Taylor, Chris Klieman, Daniel Green, Kobe Savage. A lot of extra good stuff coming up as well today on 580 Sports Talk. So stay tuned here. But we'll get back, finish things up from Big 12 Media Days here in Arlington.
BYU Topeka FM 104.9.
Welcome back here to Jerry World for Big 12 Football Media Days. As things are starting to wind down, Coach is glad that this day is over. We saw Chris Klieman walk by us, and I looked up at him and said, almost done. He goes, almost done. You can tell answering the same questions again and again and again gets kind of tiresome, but it's been a fun afternoon, fun 2 days.
It gets you so excited for football.
Yes.
Like my like excitement for the football season goes from like the drive down here. I'm probably like at a 2 out of 3 out of 10, and I leave here at like a solid 10. And I stay on 10 until we get to the end of August, and it's finally here. We kick things off. I am super excited for the season. After being here and talking to everybody, I think it's going to be exciting years in Lawrence and in Manhattan, and really, I think an exciting year across the league.
Alrighty, top 3 things that you learned from Big 12 Media Days in the last 2 days.
Top 3 things that I learned from Media Day. Number 3. Jalen Daniels has a chain that plays his own highlights.
Okay,
that's sick. That's a flex. That's a baller move. Number two, man, you kind of hit me with this out of nowhere. Like there's so much.
There's a lot that went down.
I could just give you. I want to give you the top things, but let me just give you.
Here,
K-Staters love to golf. The K-State football team is really into golf.
I want specific football, Big 12 wise, and then like fun stuff wise.
Okay. So the fun stuff wise,
Jalen Daniels
with the chain.
K-Staters like to golf.
K-State football is tearing up the links.
Yep.
None of them have
any good.
Yeah,
but
like Cooper Beebe says he shoots in the 90s. You can have fun shooting in the 90s.
Well, you have fun golfing no matter what. You just got to have your expectations. If you're going out there thinking that you're going to break par and you can't hit a fairway, well, then you need to lower your expectations.
That's a fact. None of them, though, have played enough golf to know that the answer to the question when somebody asks you what your handicap is, well, mainly driving, chipping, and putting.
Yeah.
That's my handicap.
If somebody knows their handicap right off the rip, they're a serious golfer.
They have played out a lot.
They're a serious golfer.
Anyhow, so love that. Love that K-State football is getting some bonding time on the golf course. As far as what I learned about the league, what I learned about Kansas State is I think that they are really optimistic that they're not going to miss a beat on offense without Deuce Vaughn. And certainly Trayshawn Ward is a big part of that optimism. And having 5 offensive linemen back is another big part of that optimism. But I think they feel like even without Deuce, they're going to be A-okay moving the ball down the field this season. And for Kansas, the difference in their confidence and their attitude, I think they feel like they belong.
Okay,
a little bit. You have that sense of okay, and look, 6-6 in a regular season is not world beating. We're not trying to say put what they accomplished last year at the same level of what Kansas State or TCU accomplished last year. But it was such a leap forward for that program to now feel like a real football team, one that's going to go out and beat some people in the league, that did beat some people in the league last year. And I think you can sense that confidence, and you can sense that optimism that, they're not coming from a place of ground zero anymore. Now, when you see Kansas on the schedule, you say that's a real football team. We got to play well to beat Kansas. And I think they're ready as a group for that challenge.
Alrighty, I'm going to go first, Big 12 related. The Big 12 is expanding. If your answer to the question, well, what about expansion? We have a plan. I'm not going to tell you that plan, so don't ask me again, but hopefully we can execute that plan. You're expanding. The Big 12 is going to get bigger. Whether that's this offseason, next offseason, the Big 12 is getting bigger. Plain and simple, they are going to get bigger. K-State wise, I think K-State up front, their O-line, I think that's the big factor there. I think Will Howard is that much more confident because of that O-line. When you return that many dudes up front, when you return every single offensive lineman, that's a huge deal. So I'm going to go with K-State as their offensive line. For KU, the one thing that I will also mention is just the relationship, and this is how you go from a disaster of Beatty and Miles to Lance Leipold. The players just love, like, the relationship between Kenny Logan and Lance Leipold. The fact that and that he's kind of a fun guy. You wouldn't see that because you kind of look at Lance Leipold and you think, kind of dull, kind of boring. But, I mean, he's throwing his strong safety under the bus about being a Swiftie and all that kind of stuff. So I can go with that. When it comes to the fun side of things, there's so much to get to there. Is it Kenny Logan is a Swiftie? Like, diehard Swiftie. He was doing anything and everything in his power.
Not so diehard that he knows all the words to the songs.
But he goes, I know, or knows the names of the songs.
Yeah, like he doesn't know the names.
Yeah,
but he knows
all
the songs.
Yeah. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Feeling 22.
Yeah. Also, K-State off the field, golfers, but also every one of them loves to fish. Like big fishing guys,
That is interesting.
So Fulton needs to go fishing with the K-State guys is what needs to happen.
If Fulton goes with Avery Johnson, would they catch any fish?
Exactly. And lastly,
that's me. We have to do Fulton. Like
he's not even there to defend himself. Lastly, Andy Reid, big taco guy in college.
Tacos in Provo, man.
I'd
be a little concerned personally, but hey, man, tacos are delicious.
Well, if you don't like tacos, I'm worried about.
Yeah,
you.
like what's your deal?
If you don't like tacos or watermelon, what's your deal? So no, those are going to be the takeaways just off the top of my head. If you missed any of the interviews, go to our website. It is so simple. It is so easy. Go to 580wibw.com. It's right there on the on the page, as well as check out our YouTube page. Go to youtube.com, search Sports on 580. You can check out all of the interviews from KU and K-State. Also, a couple good interviews from Tom Holmoe, the AD of Houston, good to talk to as well.
Chris Pesman, yep.
Yep. And you'll want to stay tuned. You'll want to listen to Gene Taylor's interview. Good stuff from Gene Taylor when it comes to what's happening for Kansas State. I mean, they're just building, and I don't know what else they have to build with the volleyball complex being done. So we got a lot of good stuff to happen on 580 Sports Talk as well from 3 to 6. We will be back in the studio coming up tomorrow at noon. Dan will be back in his local time slot of 3 to 6.
You'll be rid of me.
We'll have Fulton back noon to 3, so we got all that. But coming up next, though, we will wrap things up. We'll get the mic drop right here at the goal line between the hashes, right in front of the uprights here from Jerry World. That'll be coming up here from Mic'd Up.
WIDW Topeka FM 104.9.
So you just gonna drop the mic on boom? Drop the mic.
Boom, mic drop. Drop mic, we're out.
Time to finish things off here from AT&T Stadium. Who knows? Maybe we'll be back here on December 2nd with KU or KState. And hopefully somebody like Texas Tech or somebody like that. That'd be great. As long as Texas and Oklahoma.
As long as it's not Texas and OU,
Yeah,
right?
I'm happy. Yeah, last year was perfect. If it's a rematch again, that would be fantastic. So, time for the mic drop. What do you got?
Mic drop for me. Don't be surprised if K-State is here on December 2nd. I know Deuce Vaughn, Felix Ejike Uzama, Julius Brents, some big losses, but I don't think anybody's going to be better than them up front. I don't think there are many quarterbacks in the league, if any, better than Will Howard. I think their pass rush group is severely underrated. They're going to be strong and experienced in the secondary again at the safety spot. I think this is a team good enough. It's a tough schedule, but it's a good enough team to get right back here to another Big 12 championship game.
I'll finish things off when it comes to the Kansas State Wildcats, as that this seems like a very confident team. It really, really does. A little bit different than years past. They do have expectations this year. I mean, their preseason picked second. So if you look at it, it's supposed to be Texas versus K-State here December 2nd. That's what it's supposed to be. So that will do it here from Big 12 Football Media Days here in Dallas, Texas. Dan and myself will be hitting the road. We'll be stopping at Buc-ee's. Be jealous. I know you are. You should be, because we'll be heading to Buc-ee's coming up here in just a little bit in Fort Worth. If you're around the Fort Worth area, stop by the Buc-ee's. Come say hi to us. That will do it, though, from this edition of Mic'd Up. Big shout out to Kyle back at the 580 WIBW studios. Also, Chris Jones might be getting a contract extension. I haven't talked about it a whole lot today because we've got a lot of college football. We'll get to that tomorrow. I expect Chris Jones to have his contract signed by Monday, to be honest with you. So get it done, Brett Veach. There's no more reason to wait. If it's not done by camp, then we're going to have a problem. We might get into a little bit more of that. But coming up next, we got 580 Sports Talk. Adios from Big 12 Media Days here in Arlington.